off a little bit before we're actually doing the show, just to make sure everyone has time to find us and watch. All right. Let me look on YouTube and see if we're actually live.
Hey. All right.
The beautiful John Irons.
He's lurking.
That is amazing. Let's check Quantum Leap Podcast on YouTube. Okay. And we should be live. We are live. Now let's click that and see what it says. Hey, that's us. Okay, so we're good. We're good, ladies. All right. And make sure you got your book on hand before we start. I am going to donate on behalf of the Quantum Leap Podcast. And
this is one that I can donate for a prize or whatever, so...
Yeah, you're going to be giving away a prize.
I'm going to be reading this one, actually, but I'll grab it when we're on.
How do I... I'm just making sure it's all working.
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 Oh,
Here.
wrong podcast.
It's doing it in pounds. How do I make it do it in dollars so I know how much we're donating?
We can just put a conversion thing up on our phone.
Oh, that's that. Well, I just want to type in the right amount. Is pounds, dollar pounds more than dollars, or what? How's that?
Yes. Pound is worth more than the dollar.
Okay, tell me how many pounds is $50 US?
And go ahead. There we go. Pounds to dollars.
All right, I'm going to shut my camera off for a second because I'm just hooking up my hard cam.
All right. So.
Hey, Scary, turn off Bluetooth. All right. Anybody converted? Alrighty, get my hard cam set up. Everybody's seeing behind the scenes, but that's fine.
Isn't the way they're supposed to be?
Clear.
Your camera's not...
No, but... Oh, yeah, I have to turn my camera on for that clap thing to work, don't I? Okay, that's for later post-edit. John, I can't see you.
I don't think John's going to join like that.
Okay.
I think he's going to lurk. He said that he's got some other obligations, but he's going to join in the chat as he can.
All right.
And $50 is 38.7 pounds. So 38 pounds, 7 pence, I guess. 7p.
All right, so we'll just do 50 pounds because that's close enough. We're just going to make sure it all works because it's almost a year old, the GoFundMe. All right.
Yeah, $65 is about 50 pounds.
Okay, that's good. Let's see here. Are we getting anybody in the chat at all?
There's people. I told them we were getting set up.
11 watchers right now.
All right.
Where are we seeing that?
On YouTube.
Okay.
Do we have the Riverside chat up?
I have the Riverside chat up. I can't really split screen effectively.
Okay.
Here we go. We got 13 people in the chat here on Riverside as well, it looks like.
All right. So we will be starting momentarily for Real. All right. $50 pounds. Matt would get that. That's from Red Dwarf. I think it's future currency. Okay. So far, so good. Donate now. What did I not put in? My email address.
Here we go. I think I got it.
we should be getting.
All right, I got Roll for Tarako is with us. Hello,
Yay!
Leapers. Hello, we're getting set up.
We should
Where's
be
my pal
getting.
Albie?
Am I coming in clear?
Yeah, you look all right.
Hey, thank you. We're just making sure this works for everybody. Again, here we go. All right. Looks like it works still. Okay. So, let's see. I just share that. All right. All right, so that's working. The GoFundMe link is gofund.me/AD53002B. Somebody remember that. There should be a QR code on the screen. Let me know if there's not.
There is. I see one.
All right, that QR code will take you right there. All right. There we go. John is still here, but I hit his camera, so it won't mess up the screen. But feel free, John, if you can come on camera. And I think we have a couple more people joining us. But we're going to start. Any questions before I start?
We're in your hands, fearless leader.
All right. I'll do the intro, and then Chris will go, I'm Chris, Brian, and I'm Stacy from whatever you're from. I still don't know. Hello, Leapers, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Albie.
And I'm Chris.
That's your cue, Brian.
I'm Brian.
Hi, I'm Stacy from Corman Productions.
Hey, and we are tonight celebrating our friend Matt Dale. November is the month of Matt, so we'll be having special programming this month. Lots of things. And tonight we're doing something special. This was my idea. Chris was a little reluctant because he's not a fan of his art.
Sorry, Klingon sneeze.
He does have allergies to the internet. He got an internet virus not too long ago, but he installed McAfee, so that should have been
I'm telling you, we've been screwing around for the last 25 minutes. The second we go live, I decide I need to sneeze. It's just, it's the greatest. Hi, world.
What you mean? I'm not sure. But we are live, L-I-V-E, live. Okay, I'll explain a little bit what we're doing. Tonight, we are going to be reading from the good book. All right? We are going to be reading from Foreknowledge, written by one of my favorite authors, Christopher D. Philippus, who we were able to manage to get on the program, which is great. We're going to be taking turns reading from the book, and we will be taking super chats in our YouTube, and we will be sending you via this QR code on the screen to Matt Dale's family's GoFundMe. So what we're doing for the month of Matt is just trying to raise some funds for his family and trying to give Zach as good of a Christmas as we can. It probably won't be the best, but, every little bit helps. So we're going to be reading from this. We'll be taking turns. We'll be doing that thing that everybody was always scared to do in school, where you're like, please don't pick me, but then you got to read some, and then you mess up a little bit. So it should be fun. And our other things, we got some previously unreleased Matt Dale content coming out this month. I know for me, I have a show that Matt and I did. It was basically Siskel and Ebert at the time travel movies. And I think, Chris, you were the announcer for that.
Yeah, I believe you roped me into doing that, then nothing ever came of it.
Exactly. Yeah. It just, it was one of our first things we tried on Riverside, and their stuff and our stuff. We didn't know what to do yet, and one of the videos is a little glitchy. But I think because it's Matt, I think it's important to get it out. So it's going to come out this month. Maybe we'll have some audio, previously unreleased audio from Matt. And also we'll be doing a Quantum Leap after show, which we already recorded. But we'll be releasing this month all about the Scott Bakula musical, The Man of La Mancha, that we all went to in New Hampshire. So it'll be fun.
Lots of stuff.
There is definitely other people have ideas, so we'll see.
There's definitely Matt audio that is still unreleased. Mm-hmm. It was a bonus show that we did for QLP. It was the last one that we did for the Scott Bakula Mean Streak movie. So if you want to hear Matt, Allison, and me cursing a lot, stay tuned through the month of Matt, because I'll be putting that together sometime before all of this is over.
Yay. All right. We got a heart from John. Let's see. Let me see if I can get some of this stuff on screen. We've got a heart from John Irons. Ruffalo Taco says, there we go. Everyone looks great.
Roll for Tarako. Ruffalo Taco is now
All
his
right.
character name in D&D.
I'm just going to put this one up because he says Albie looks fabulous. But his audio is like Justin Timberlake. Let me check my mic before we do this.
So
Yeah.
you're just like Jagger, is what that says to me.
All right. And that's...
We have another person, Janice Madeline Swift, whom I don't believe has been with us live here.
Says
Janice
Madeline Swift.
She writes, I am a
transgender
transgender woman, fan of the Gen 2 series, getting a fanfic version of a continuation ready next year.
Awesome. More Quantum Leap content is always good. Albie's out of sync. I know, I've been struggling with that my whole life, but people try to do their best to understand me, so we'll try to...
It does become endearing after a while. So.
All right. So basically, we're going to take turns reading from this. And like I said, we might have some other guests joining us. And we're going to be doing this in 4 parts. So we're doing the first quarter of the 4 parts, just for time, because I think we'd be here probably 12 hours if we did the whole thing. So we're going to be doing it once a week. So keep an eye out and make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you get an alert when we go live. And that'd be great. Do we have any volunteers that want to go first?
Have we figured out how far we're going to read?
No, I was hoping one of you would.
I'm doing that right now. I'm going to let you know. So there's a 242 page count divided by 4. So we have to get through roughly 60 pages tonight. Let's see where we're at page 60.
Takes us up to chapter 6.
All right.
See, Brian knows stuff. Okay, so we end at the end of chapter 5.
Well,
maybe?
that's like perfect, actually. Yeah.
All right, so we'll be doing 5 chapters tonight. Now, part of the fun is I may randomly just say a name, and then they have to take over where we are.
Okay. All right. So have we mentioned that we're going to be giving a copy away to... How are we doing that?
Oh, yes. Okay, so it's not a contest because, we're not authorized to have a contest, I don't think. But we will be giving a free gift to one of the listeners. We're looking for the highest donation for Matt's family, and that's how you get that free gift. No purchase necessary. You might get one with no donation, but it's only available in the continental United States and not excluding Pueblo, Colorado, and void where prohibited by law of getting gifts. And it will be a personalized signed copy by Christopher D. Philippus. Christopher's copy. He's going to personally sign it for you, and we're going to send it to you. So
this is the giveaway copy, which is pretty pristine, no cracks in the binding. It's nice and square. I'm going to get my reading copy, which is also just my display copy, which is a little bit more road worn. So, all right.
60 pages total tonight, 5 chapters. Yep. Okay, Ruffalo Taco.
Yes, 60 pages per person.
Brian from San Francisco also commenting in there, keeping us
again.
fair. Okay. Can you turn up your volume a little bit, Brian? Is that possible?
Try it now.
Your microphone volume?
Yeah. Let's see here.
Can everyone hear him but me?
What about now?
Good enough?
Sounds
Good
fine.
enough?
Okay, I can fix it in post. Yay, we have Hayden. Beefcake! He's been working out, man. I've been following your workout videos. How you doing? My Quantum Leap podcast after show co-host. I'm glad you made it, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry I'm late. The organisation wasn't all that good. Matt would have got it right.
He would have.
Matt when you need him.
He would have. All right. Now, does everyone have the good book in front of them? I'd ask you to hold it up. All right.
I'm going digital.
Go digital. There we go.
Okay, we got digitals. All right. That's fine, too.
I tried really hard today. I went through every box in my basement that said books, and I found 10, but not that one.
I'm so proud.
But you know what's great is I thought they were all long gone. Like, haven't seen them in ever, so I'm happy I found some of them.
I'm glad to hear it. Did you get all of them, Stacy, or? Yeah, that's the thing. Towards the end of the run, I don't even know if most people got the last 3 to 6.
Yeah.
I think that the interest is really petering out, and they didn't produce as many.
You said
And yeah, I did. And
Now, hang on.
anyway,
Can I just ask something with Riverside here. there's a big QR code over my face. Does that come through on the recording, or is it just something on my end for some reason?
On my side, it's on my photo. I don't know what it's on YouTube or
Same for me.
Riverside.
We're going to arrange it so that it is over your face, Hayden. But thank you for the idea.
Ooh, the Church of Foreknowledge. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. All right, thank you, Ruffalo.
That's Ruffalo Taco's latest RPG, the Church of Foreknowledge.
I didn't even have to get this free gift. It is part of a non-contest. I got a personally inscribed copy from Christopher D. Philippus. All I had to do was take a 48-hour train ride to New York City.
Yeah, he threatened.
I don't know if you know this, but there is such a thing called the post. Like I got a signed one from Chris as well, but it was just through the mail.
Oh, that's cool.
I had to sign Albie's, otherwise
I only had to run the pseudo competition. So.
John says the QR code is on Chris's square in the upper left, so on the stream. So that's good.
So right above my head.
There you go. And remember that QR code. And while we're here, we're trying to raise funds for Matt's family. Anything you can do to help, that'd be great. No amount is too little. And if you're rich, set them up for life. And anywhere in between, we're good for that. Okay. Everybody watch the chat. Fandom says, "Hey, everyone."
Hello.
Let's see. Sorry I couldn't join tonight. On vacation in NYC. Hopefully next week. All right.
Yeah, that's Damon.
That is
he said he's wiped. He's traveling through the Empire State. So.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I saw some pictures of his beautiful family in New York. That looked like so much fun. So I'm glad. But we'll be doing this in 4 parts, so people may come and go throughout the month. But it's the month of Matt. November is the month of Matt. We want to get all the fundraising done before December, so it's all in their hands before it needs to be for the holidays. All right. I am going to read, well, you know what? I'll let you read the dedication, Chris, since you wrote it.
Do you want me to read the dedication and the acknowledgments?
Yes, that would be great.
Alrighty, so Quantum Leap Foreknowledge, a novel by Christopher D. Philippus based on the Universal television series Quantum Leap, created by Donald P. Belisario. The dedication goes, for Laura, my wife, your love made it possible. I'm so glad that Laura and I are still together, otherwise that would be awkward. So, Sam was looking out for us. In the acknowledgments that I wrote a million years ago, I want to thank the following people without whose input this book wouldn't have been possible. Mom and Pop, first and foremost, for giving me life, then teaching me what to do with it. I think you'll see a lot of yourselves in these pages. Michael Mader, whose screenwriting class forced me to write the scene that evolved into this book. Nancy Henderson, who always had the facts on hand to take care of my writing emergencies. And Nancy, who, along with Rue Calkins, got me in under the wire at the first East Leap. Joanne Wilson for her careful reading and for providing the Geechee connection. Tom Dunn for editing after midnight. Elizabeth Storm for an invaluable source of support and email procrastination. Owen McGovern, that was my boss at the time, for letting me moonlight, and the rest of the CPA staff who had to put up with me while I was writing this. Ginger Buchanan, who gave me a shot and waited through 3 years of revisions. And last of all, Uncle Carl, who started the ball rolling when he asked me, but what happens when the people go back? I hope this answers the question.
Woo, Uncle Carl.
Authors note the events in this novel take place sometime after those chronicled in the television episode trilogy, parts 1 through 3, naturally because Sammy Joe is a character.
Yeah.
All right.
So it sounds like Uncle Carl started Quantum Deep all those years ago.
Probably.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you still have any contact info for Elizabeth Storm? Because I would love.
No,
to
we cannot. We cannot. We've all appealed to Liz if she's still out there in the fandom to contact us, and she never has. So, but if you're out there, Liz, watching,
Chris, but Elizabeth Storms are my favorite. So.
Yeah, you and everybody else.
All right. Before we start the prologue, we have 2 people that have battery-operated books. How's your batteries looking?
99%.
97, and I am prepared.
All right. So
I just wish that I could do that and make the handling noise. So
does anybody have a heart out tonight?
Not yet, but if you sweet talk me.
It'll be about midnight because we started at 8.
Okay. So
maybe in post, Albie, if I do this, you can put the pterodactyl noise.
Oh yeah, it's very possible. We'll see. Okay, why don't we start with the prologue with Brian Greene from Al's Place? And a reminder, check that QR code and go to, or just Google Matt Dale GoFundMe and donate what you can. And also, we will be taking super chats, but I don't know if they show up on our chat software. So somebody have a YouTube window open somewhere so we can acknowledge those.
All right. Is anyone taking particular characters? Because I'd love
No,
to.
we're reading chapters, and then sometimes I can tag you out for fun.
Okay.
All right, so listen for your name, watch me for the changes, and try to keep up. Brian Greene, you're first.
All right, prologue. He's coming home now, Sam. It's showtime. Sam nodded and finished applying his lipstick. He pursed his lips, trying to look seductive. Forget it, Al quipped. You look like a striped bass. Sam snapped the compact shut and returned it to his purse. Al was right. He could have let his eyes do the talking and the low-cut dress. There was a soft knock on the door as Colton walked in, a portrait of arrogance and power. Well, if it isn't the Count of no account, sneered the observer. And I said it before and I'll say it again, Sam. This is probably the jerk who invented the power tie. Sam forced a smile. Hello, Jonathan. Good evening, Anne-Marie, Colton said in a smug British accent that oozed like rancid butter. Good evening, Al disgustedly mimicked. Would you listen to this, phony? I've seen cartoon characters with more soul. Sam knew his friend was right. Ziggy had traced Colton's lineage to Palmyra, Missouri. He was just plain Johnny Reinhold there. But the accent was part of the persona that the farm boy turned royalty had built for himself while insinuating his way into New York's jet set. The socialites had devoured his claim of being a minor, lording, and asked for seconds. Making the scene led to contacts, and Colton's import-export business had thrived. I must admit I was somewhat confused when you asked to meet me in your office at so late an hour, Colton continued. His eyes wandered up and down Sam's body until they hovered at breast level. But it's becoming increasingly clear. Slime ball, Sam thought, but he willed the smile to remain. This was the reaction he was looking for, after all. It was the only way left that he could think of to pull himself out of this disastrous leap. Is it? Sam asked, approaching Colton slowly. Colton smiled and sat down on the arm of one of the matched set of heavy wooden chairs that faced an intricately carved antique Chinese desk. Whatever do you mean? Sam played with the idea of fluttering his eyelashes, but dismissed it. I can't lay it on too thick. Colton reached out, drawing Sam closer and rubbing the back of Sam's neck. Yick, said Al. Now, Colton shot his hand up and grabbed a fistful of Sam's hair. Maybe you can tell me what this is really all about. Sam fought to pull away, giving him a screaming bonsai chop in the throat, Sam, yelled the observer. Sam was inclined to agree, but at the first hint of movement, Colton pulled harder. A sudden twist would have left Sam with a broken neck. Taking self-defense classes? Asked Colton, with contempt. How very liberated. But let's not forget who calls the shots around here, shall we? Now what do you want? Diamonds, said Sam through clenched teeth. I have some clients very interested in rare gems. Price is no object. The last seemed to get through to Colton. He eased his grip a little. Sam knocked Colton's arm away and broke free. Gems, eh? Asked Colton. And who are the clients? That's not important. What matters is that they're ready to do business. And for that, I need you. Colton feigned surprise. Our self-reliant little Spitfire is actually asking for help? I never thought the day would dawn. Sam smiled and smoothed his dress. Not help exactly. Let's just say that you had more extensive contacts. It was an understatement. Colton had exploited society's underside, making contacts behind the front of his import-export business to build a smuggling ring that spanned the globe. He prided himself on having people everywhere who could acquire anything. Drugs were boring to him. It was things of real value that he sought for his buyers, works of art, manuscripts, coins, all priceless originals and all stolen. It didn't take very long for the leaper to figure out he was there to nab Colton. But there was one point of which Ziggy had failed to inform him. And would you like me to provide you those contacts? Colton said. My dear, have you forgotten the first rule of our business? I rather hope I have trained you better. Better than you thought. When he started digging for evidence to get Colton, Sam found enough dirt to fill the Holland Tunnel. But he also uncovered a paper trail, so well hidden that not even Ziggy had suspected it, leading directly to Anne-Marie. She was in it, as Al put it, up to her eyeballs. Sam's hindsight then allowed him to see the obvious evidence that surrounded him. The woman held a top position in a leading international firm. Her office was decorated with the alluvia of many cultures, tribal masks, hand-painted rice paper screens, and the like. That Sam, with his late 1990s sensibilities, had failed to find odd for a woman in the male-dominated workforce of 1975. He figured it was just the trappings of the job. He hated Al's initial "she slept her way to the top" theory. He hated even more that his friend was probably right. Women didn't generally move in power circles of this type in the mid-1970s unless they used every bargaining chip available to them. Now, Ziggy said he would have to find some way of getting Colton without destroying Anne-Marie's life in the process. "Price first," continued Colton. "What do you offer me for my troubles?" "Well, they're your contacts." Sam sat down on the edge of the desk, crossing his legs and arching his back. "I guess you can name your price." "Really, Anne-Marie, seduction is so unbecoming, and my services don't come cheap. Offer me something I can work with." 15%? "Ha, not bloody likely. 80. "Too high, Sam. Anne-Marie would never go for it." 80? I'm doing all the work." "Come now, it's my people you're using. Without me, your deal is dead. 80, take it or leave it." 40. 65. "Deal." Sam injected just the right amount of resignation in his sigh. "Now the names." Colton took a notepad and pen from the desk. "There's a man, Laszlo, in Germany." He wrote a number and handed the paper to Sam. "Tell him I sent you. He's been in the smuggling game as long as I have." "Bingo, Sam," said Al. "That did it. Now," continued Colton, "I think I will accept that the other payment you offered." Sam smiled and held out a hand. Colton bent to kiss it, and Sam's open palm met his nose in a bone-slapping crunch. Colton fell to the floor with a yell just as the door burst open and FBI agents swarmed the room. "Not bloody likely," Sam said, and turned to the man approaching him. I guess you got all you needed." Sam took off the wire and wrapped around to the transmitter on his back and handed them to the agent. He was the only solution left, really. "We got it, but I still can't figure out why you came to us. The FBI has been watching Colton's operation for a few years, and not one of our agents ever found anything to prove you were involved." "Well, Agent Barnes," said Sam, I want it out, and this way I don't become a loose end that has to be eliminated." "I see what you mean." Barnes gestured toward Colton, who was snorting defiantly at the other agents through his shattered nose. "At least you went out with a bang. Is our deal still good?" "Like I told you, you're in too deep for me to give you any guarantees, but I'll stand by you and push for the lightest sentence I can," Barnes smiled. "We could have done it without you. Couldn't have done it without you." Sam held out his wrist. Barnes cuffed him, and he started to follow quietly. "Colton goes away for a long time, Sam," Al said. He pushed some buttons. "Ziggy says she can't find anything on Anne-Marie. She's disappeared. Maybe she went into the witness protection program." Sam felt a familiar tingle take hold. Whatever happened from this point on was moot. His job was done. He winked at Al, and he leaped.
Wow. Great job, Brian.
Yeah. I wonder why Ziggy couldn't find any information on Anne-Marie.
I wonder
Probably
if that's a
because that was
plot
ruined the
point
book.
that comes up at some point in the
Find out.
future.
Ziggy's always useless, even in the show. So a nice little, nod to continuity there, Chris.
All right. Why don't we go with Chapter 1, The Man Himself, Christopher D. Philippus.
Oh, okay. And John loves, I love a good, not bloody likely. Matt used to always chide me for cursing whenever he said Americans always use bloody, and I guess that's like cursing in the UK. He used to
So
say,
weird,
"Why-"
right?
They always curse. Anyway, so I guess I'm guilty of that. So
Bloody hell.
You'd all
Now
be
we're getting
screwed here
demonetized in
Australia.
the UK, maybe?
Australia,
All right.
every second word is a
Okay, and
curse word.
reminder, while we're here, donate to Matt's GoFundMe.
yes, please. You can't get
QR code
content
is on
like
the
this
screen.
anywhere else. Click on that QR code or take a picture of it. I don't know how do QR codes work. What do people have to do with that?
You just take your phone and you just hold it up to the screen and you turn your camera on and your camera sees it. Click the link that shows up on the bottom. It'll take you right there. Donate whatever you got paid the last 4 weeks. What is it? Your first 5 months salary or something?
All right.
I don't know. What's traditional? Something like that.
I never thought you'd ask, Albie.
But no
That's called
donation
tithing,
is
isn't
too
it?
small. Everything adds up, as we saw last year. Everything helps. So whatever you can do. and much appreciated. And if you can't help out financially, just share the GoFundMe link. That would help out great deal also. All right, let people know that what we're doing, and follow along at home if you have the good book. All right, chapter 1, Christopher D. Philippus,
Chapter
the
1.
author.
Samantha J. Fuller sat hunched in the blue glow of the computer screen, working on the ideas that had popped into her head during dinner. She was close now. She could feel it. The equations marched across her monitor, an ever-changing army of numbers and symbols tramping toward their goal. A tingle of excitement flowed from her stomach directly through her fingertips, which were flying over the keyboard like pheasants avoiding buckshot. She mentally reviewed her basic postulates as she typed, checking the formulas for accuracy. They were the crucial foundation of her work. They had to be right. And they were, as far as she could tell. She entered the last digits and sat back, feeling relieved and not a little bit smug. "My dear Dr. Beckett," she said, "you're coming home." She regally poked the return button. An eternal moment passed, and then the monitor went dark. When it came back on, a hodgepodge of cyber nonsense broke through the a hodgepodge of cyber nonsense. I never thought I'd have to read this aloud. A hodgepodge of cyber nonsense broke through her neat rows of logic, wreaking havoc without mercy. She barely had time to gasp before the screen flashed again. All that remained was a single sentence, 3 words that seemed to crouch around the screen's prompt in an attempt not to be read. "Does not compute." No, shit! Samantha pounded the keys in frustration. "Ziggy!" she yelled, the southern twang in her voice more pronounced with tiredness and frustration. "Where did I go wrong?" A new sentence started to type itself on the monitor, and Samantha turned it off in disgust. "Talk to me, damn it!" "Your attempted retrieval formula did not take into account the fluctuating variables of neuron and meson retention as they pertain to an individual leap," came the unperturbed reply. Goosebumps prickled Samantha's skin at the sound of the cool voice. She never seemed able to get used to the eerie tone of the parallel-Hebord's computer speech. The voice seemed to float out of nothingness and rivaled her grandmama Laura's in the ability to cause the heebie-jeebies. "You've also failed to realize that the odds of retrieving decrease exponentially, not linearly, with each successive leap due to the constant merging with outside subjects." "So you're saying the problem is scrambled brains," said Samantha, cutting the computer off. As frustrating as it was, it made sense. The momentary merging of the doctor's psyche with that of his host as they switched places led to the exchange of neurons and mesons. That was inevitable. Samantha could see why her equations fell short. For someone who had been leaping as long as Dr. Beckett had, the chances of recovery were slim indeed. His neurons and mesons had been swapped like baseball cards for far too many times over the last 5 years for the computer to get a good enough fix on him to pull him back. But that led to other questions. If we can't get an accurate enough hold on Dr. Beckett to bring him back, she asks, then how are we able to track him at all? She already knew the answer but wanted to make sure she had missed nothing. 3 ways, Ziggy replied. Foremost is the link that Dr. Beckett and I share. My neurocomponents were derived from his cells. As long as he remains alive, I will always be able to track him to a degree. Then, of course, there is Admiral Calavici, who can achieve a neuron lock in the imaging chamber. And last but not least, Samantha finished, we have the person in the waiting room. But won't this continual swapping eventually cause Dr. Beckett's consciousness to dissipate completely? No, Dr. Fuller, Ziggy replied. When Dr. Beckett leaps out of a specific time and person, most of the neurons and mesons are lost. He lost or returned. For the amount of time he is in flux, he is whole. So what you're telling me is that the best opportunity to bring him back is when we have absolutely no way of knowing where he is? The facts didn't seem to bother Ziggy. That is correct. Samantha slapped her desktop unit off and stalked to the closet. She pulled out an old MIT sweatshirt, drew it over her head, and made for the door. It was the proverbial catch-22. She walked through the project's corridors, trying to punch a hole in the problem, but it wore diamond armor. She put it in the back of her mind. Maybe her subconscious would work it out for her. Aside from the skeleton crew of officers stuck with pulling the night shift, Samantha had the halls to herself. She knew it had to be at least 2 a.m. She decided to go to the cafeteria and see what goodies were to be had. Nothing helped her work through a problem as well as a pint of banana fudge super chunk ice cream topped off with a cup of hot cocoa. The holographic image surrounding Al swirled and abruptly disappeared, leaving him in the cold blue glow of the imaging chamber. It was his favorite sight. It meant that Sam was one leap closer to home. He stepped off the silver disc located in the room's center and fingered his hand link. The door slid up with a hydraulic sigh. He walked through the light and into the control room. "Ziggy," he said to the blue orb suspended above him, "what did happen to Anne-Marie?" "I'm having difficulty accessing that data. Try back in 11.7 hours. 11 hours? Since when does anything take you 11 hours to figure out?" "Since now." The tone was haughty, almost daring challenge. Al was in no mood for an argument, so he decided to drop it. From the general quiet around him, he figured it was the wee hours of the morning. He wasn't the least bit tired. Leap lag was one of the few dangers of observing. He found his hours dictated predominantly by the time and place Sam had leaped into. It was sometimes a bit disconcerting to walk directly out of a sunny afternoon into a deserted control room with the main console humming quietly on autopilot. He knew Ziggy would call Tina or Gushy right away if anything went wrong. What really worried Al was that Gushy might see his absence as an opportunity to weasel his way into Tina's good graces. How could she be attracted to both of them? He was a former jet jock, one of the first men on the space shuttle, and a national hero. Gushy was just Gushy. He took a puff of his cigar. "Ziggy?" "Yes, Admiral?" "Would you tell Tina to meet me in the cafeteria?" "I am not a paging service, Admiral, but even if I were, Dr. Martinez O'Farrell is sleeping at the moment." Ziggy paused. "If you'd really like to see her, I'm sure she'd be a lot more receptive if you woke her personally." "Get your mind out of the gutter, girl," Al shot back, a grin growing on his lips. That was one less worry. He bade the computer a good night and went out of the control room towards the cafeteria. When he got there, he was surprised to see Sammy Joe Fuller polishing off what had once been a big bowl of ice cream. He had something less sweet, but no less sinful in mind. "Al," Samantha said, "I take it Dr. Beckett has leaped?" Al nodded and went behind the counter into a well-stocked kitchen. When Sam had laid out the complex's building plans, he'd paid almost as much attention to the kitchen's design specs as he had to the accelerator chambers. It had made little sense to Al at the time, and he tried to dissuade his friend from being so lavish. It was just the kind of spending that would earn them top billing on one of the tabloid shows. He could just picture it. Quantum Whiz Kid turned junk food junkie at taxpayers' expense on the next Roberto. Every housewife in America would be out gunning for blood. "Try not to see it so much as a budgeting nightmare as a morale booster," Sam had quipped. "Being buried under a mountain in the middle of nowhere is one of the job requirements of working on the project. The sense of home will make even Weitzman happy." And it had, for the most part. Sure, there were still knockdown drag-em-outs when it came time for committee to review the annual budget, but they seemed perfunctory at this point. Weitzman initiated them, of course, but if the way he stuffed his face during the annual committee visits, stovepipe hat tilted in a manner that clearly meant business, was any indication, he did it more for the pleasure of baiting Al than out of any real monetary concern. So Al continued to make stocking the kitchen a chief priority when he was wearing his budget manager hat. He was very glad of it at this moment. He returned to the dining area carrying a prepackaged bean burrito and about a gallon of guacamole and hot sauce. "A little victory dinner," he said, putting the burrito into one of the compact microwaves located next to the coffee pots at the far end of the counter. "And now I don't have to go to Hartford City alone." "So I take it Dr. Beckett straightened everything out for Anne-Marie Ranieri?" asked Samantha, brushing her hair back. Al eased into a chair across from her, amazed at how much she looked like her mother. When he had come out of the imaging chamber and seen her for the first time, standing behind the main console, it was all he could do to keep from yelling, "Abigail!" She seemed to be somewhere between amused and confused when she saw the look on his face. "What's the matter, Admiral?" she had asked. "You're acting like you've never seen me before." He had recovered quickly, of course. It took a lot to shake the Calavici poker face, perfected by years of dealing with blood-sucking divorce lawyers. The newly forged past had come to him slowly, but he remembered it, right down to Sam introducing them on her first day on the project. Time travel played mind games almost as well as the women he'd known. Al shrugged. "I don't really know. I guess he did because he leaped. But Ziggy didn't have any answers for me. The only thing I can figure is that she plea-bargained her way into a new identity." He sucked on his cigar and quickly tamped it out when he caught the expression on Sammy Joe's face. It's out, he said, being careful not to exhale in her direction. "Don't wrinkle your nose at me like that, Sammy Joe. It makes your face all scrunchy." He was the only person who called her that. She thought it was just his way of teasing her. He couldn't tell her the real reason, that it had been the name he'd first known for her when she was 10 years old. Oh, that's disgusting, she said, as he placed the stub in his vest pocket. How can you walk around with that smelly thing? It looks like a slimy, half-eaten Tootsie Roll. I have my slimy vices, you have yours, Al said, gesturing towards her ice cream. Ever-growing pools of vanilla overtook lonely bits of banana. Oh, that. Samantha took her spoon and mashed the last of her snack into a yellow-white paste. I'm just drowning my sorrows. Al got up at the sound of the beeping microwave and juggled the hot food to his plate. Want to talk about it? Far be it from me to ruin your victory party, she answered. He remained silent in the hope she'd continue. She did. I was this close. She held up her thumb and forefinger in exasperation. This close to getting Dr. Beckett home. Al stopped chewing, scalding beans forgotten for the moment. What do you mean? He asked, swallowing quickly. How? I had worked out a retrieval formula. It seemed so right, but it was another dead end. Al searched for something to say. He knew that getting Sam home had become Sammy Joe's pet project, but to his knowledge, she had never done more than theorize. He'd even let her use Sam's private office in the hope that it would strike some spark. Except for Donna, he had declared the room off limits. It was Sam's fortress of solitude, in a way, a place where he did his thinking. It would be exactly as he'd left it when he returned. But considering the bond Sam and Sammy Joe shared, even if they didn't know about it, Al had granted her access. Maybe the room's aura or whatever would kindle some dormant inspiration in the woman. Fact or fancy, Al didn't care. When it came to bringing Sam home, anything was worth a shot. Don't take it too hard, Al finally replied. Not even Sam can get Sam home, and he's the wonderkind. That doesn't matter, Al. I'm a genius too, remember? It was not a brag, Al knew, only a simple statement of fact. And I kind of feel like I owe it to Dr. Beckett to get him home. Owe him? Before I met Dr. Beckett, I was floundering. I was done with MIT and on my way to work at a computer firm in Mobile, of all places. Then one of my professors, Dr. Lunegro, introduced us. I know it's going to sound crazy, but I felt a bond at that moment. I never told you this, but I grew up without a father. That always left sort of a hole. When I met Dr. Beckett, that feeling disappeared. Another person made it go away once before that. Sammy Joe's eyes took on a faraway look, as if straining to see something shrouded in the cloak of years. I was only a little girl then. Al suppressed a grin. He would bet his next round of alimony payments that the other person was someone Sammy Joe Fuller had known as Sam Larry Stanton. Well, you shouldn't beat yourself up regardless, not for failing at the impossible. He didn't know what else to say. The girl may look like her mother, but she's her father's daughter. She wants to save the world too. Cheer up, Al said, brightening. I told you I wouldn't ruin your victory party, and I won't. I'm sorry. Cheer up, Al. Cheer up, Al, she said, brightening. I told you I wouldn't ruin your victory party, and I won't. The tone sounded forced to Al. He knew of a sure way to make her smile again. He could tell her the truth. Project Rules be damned. He knew the pain of growing up without parents, and he was loath to see anybody else go through it. But that would probably lead to a fiercer determination on her part to do the impossible, and to further self-abuse when she realized she couldn't. If anything, he said, it's my fault he's still leaping around. He was home, remember, and gave it up to save me. It was a calculated risk. The Swiss cheese factor had made the events surrounding his jaunt to the past a bit sketchy. All of it had happened, quote, before Sammy Joe Fuller, Sam's daughter, was part of the project. But he supposed that once she was introduced to the timeline, the original history had reshaped itself around her and incorporated her into the event. Don't be silly, Al, she replied. You can't possibly believe you're to blame. Dr. Beckett was acting on his own free will. You had no control over that. He was glad she did remember it. He would have felt foolish otherwise. And you do? Do you push Sam? Did you push Sam into the accelerator chamber? He had trapped her in her own logic, and she knew it. He pressed his advantage and answered for her. No, he did it of his own free will. That's nobody's fault, least of all yours. He punctuated the last point with his burrito. So I don't care what kind of bond you may feel, it still doesn't make it your responsibility. Brilliant coup, Admiral. Sammy Joe rose, snapping a mock salute. Permission to go to sleep, sir? Aye. And watch out for the proverbial bedbugs or mountain weevils or whatever the hell they are around here. Samantha turned to leave, but paused at the door. Thanks, Al, she said, a soft grin framing her words. Good night. Al, returning her smile, watched her go. He lit a cigar and took a few long puffs. Eat your heart out, Verbena. Long after Al had disposed of the dirty plates and retired for the night, Ziggy was still working. She had long since left the minor systems on automatic and focused all of her neurochips on locating the subject, Anne-Marie Ranieri. New York Times Record Library, no data. Federal Bureau of Investigation files, no data. United States Witness Protection Program, no data. Internal Revenue Service records, no data. The parallel hybrid computer searched all the available files that might have information on the woman and some that in all probability didn't. She even went through the rather humbling process of repeating the procedure. It still yielded no information. Methodically, Ziggy searched the memory banks of all the prison computers across the country. Ashland Federal Corrections Institution, no information. Danbury, FCI, no data. Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. Anne-Marie Ranieri, inmate number 064-E-76, admitted 3/18/76, released 7/12/7/12/7/12. No data. Ziggy searched the records again. It was fruitless. The information that had come up before was no longer there. There had to be a logical explanation. Perhaps it was in her own circuits. She ran a standard diagnostic program. The results remained in the optimal percentage range. Something to do with the other computer? Possibly. She checked for the data again and again, but to no avail. The parallel hybrid computer continued searching, but as the night wore on, an alien feeling encroached on the cool logic of Ziggy's neurocircuits. Under ordinary circumstances, the only, quote, feeling the computer could be said to have was one of superiority. Now, for the first time ever, that superiority was wavering.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I think the guy who wrote this or whoever wrote this knew a lot about Quantum Leap because I love those Easter eggs and stuff and those callbacks.
I was surprised that Ginger let me put so many of them in there, but I think at this point the book series had been going on so long that the only people still reading it were fans. So she was a lot more lenient with that stuff.
For me, it kind of helps me because it like triggers memories of episodes, so I feel almost like I'm more immersed in the Quantum Leap world.
You needed my help with some of the maths terms, though, Chris, because the word you needed was axiom, not postulate, and also
Hayden, shut the fuck up.
Also, an exponential decay is actually slower than a linear decay, so it would have been a better case to be exponential.
All right, we'll go back in time, and you can tell Ginger that she needs to edit better.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. You've got the same problem that the Star Wars actors had. They could read everything, but they couldn't say it out loud. It was the same sort of dialogue issues.
I'll be right back. I have to get my reading glasses. I didn't realize how small the text was.
Mine. I got a leopard print thing going on. I think that's leopard print. I try to wear a different color glasses every live stream. I thought Chris was going to read all the zeros out because, like, when I read it the first time, I read all the zeros out and I tried to figure out if it was a code or something. And a couple weeks ago on our Star Trek show, me and Chris, I read a long binary code. So if people wrote it down and decrypted it, they could figure out what I was saying. And it went on.
I would have loved to have heard Ziggy's voice saying that code.
Oh, that'd be cool. All right, let's see what comments we got. Are you guys able to read the comments also?
Yeah, I can read some of them if you want.
Right,
what have we got?
We've got. So then you can read
them. Someone was talking about the QR code. Now you tell me. I spent 5 minutes trying to click the QR code before I realized I needed to use my phone.
We got John Iron said Gushy works great for a noun.
Yeah, everyone who watched Quantum Leap originally predates QR codes, so that's not surprising.
Okay.
And John said Gushy works great as a noun and an adjective.
Okay, shout out to Alabama, hey John. Dun dun dun. Okay, I'm sure that was meant to go along with one of the things we were reading. Welcome back, Stacy.
Well, that's a lot better.
Where did she go? You're gone again for me, but I can hear you.
There's our
welcome back, Stacy.
Okay.
All right, let's go with my co-host from the Quantum Leap podcast after show for Chapter 2. And that will be Hayden McQueenie, all the way from Down Under, Australia.
Okay.
Beef
so
Hayden.
Chapter 2.
Read aloud as it was meant to be in its original Australian.
And feel free to fix any... Hayden, feel free to fix any maths.
Yes, please. Yeah. I'm going to need you as a consultant for the audiobook.
All right. So, Chapter 2. The bell's harsh clang echoed hollowly off the concrete walls. abruptly rousing Anne-Marie out of her doze. The copy of Town and Country slid from her chest as she sat up, society pages folding to the floor and shutting her out. How poetic, she murmured, rubbing her eyes. She kicked the magazine, and it landed between the sink and the toilet. The latest fashions from Paris stared back at her. She ignored them and turned on the faucet, a tap for anyone else in Australia that's not in America, hoping for warm water to wash with. The faucet's noise followed her as she paced her cell. 3 steps, turn. 3 steps, following the faint impression worn into the concrete floor from the door to the stainless steel sink by countless feet taking the same route for countless years. She was carrying on a great prison tradition, it seemed. Anne-Marie tested the water and splashed it on her face. Tepid was probably the best she'd get today. She supposed she should be happy. Some days there was no hot water at all. Others it was so scalding that you couldn't touch it. She grabbed the washcloth she kept folded on the corner of her sink and jumped back with a yelp as a cockroach fell out of it and into the basin. Oh, you reckon it was Al's friend from when he was in the orphanage, cockroach?
Son of Kevin.
Of all the things that she had to get used to since coming to prison, roaches were the worst. Life on the inside took a lot of mental strength, and she'd found a good source for that so far. But one night early on, she had awakened when she felt a light tickling all over her body. She opened her eyes to see her arm covered in a writhing brown mass. The screams that welled up died in her throat when she felt something moving on her tongue. One of the vile things had decided to forage in her mouth. She spit it out and vomited. Then she screamed, a scream to wake the dead. There were hundreds of them all over her and the bed. Tibor, the bastard, actually laughed when he finally opened the door and saw her flailing around the cell with roaches flying from every part of her. For an encore, she slipped in her own puke and fell to the floor in tears of rage. Get up, the CEO said it again. Get up, the CO said, still guffawing. She kicked him in the crotch instead. It had the desired effect. He took her to the hole and she stayed there for 3 days, relatively roach-free. The charge sheet cited her for assaulting a corrections officer and causing a disturbance. Nowhere did it mention that she was sleeping on a mattress that had turned into an insect's nest. She definitely couldn't take the roaches. She crushed the run, still struggling to get above the waterline, and watched it swirl down the drain. If she'd ever seen a more concrete symbol for the turn her life had taken, she couldn't remember it. She tasted bile in her throat as anger flared in her. Even with all the order prison imposed on her life, none of it made sense. How the hell did I wind up in this godforsaken place? That was the $64,000 question to which she had no answer. She'd been on top of $1 million operation with her ass covered so well that even she couldn't find it with both hands on the proverbial flashlight. Torch for everywhere other than America. Then, one day, about 3 years ago, have I been in this place that long? It all fell apart. No explanation, no rhyme or reason. They'd just taken it all away from her, and try as she might, she still couldn't figure out how it happened. Colton had been her first guess. Towards the end, she really didn't need him anymore, and he knew it. They both knew it would come to that one day. Well, she had anyway. The classic story of the student surpassing the teacher. Only she had anticipated it and was prepared. The evidence she'd squirreled away with specific instructions on who to give it to in the event of her untimely demise, say an ice pick to the ear, had kept the bastard in check. She should have for good. But even when it seemed apparent that it hadn't, not surprising due to the man's childish mentality and jealous tendencies, she was still prepared. No one would believe that a woman could climb so high in the old boys' club of big business, robbery, and corruption, especially not a jury. It would just be another case of male domination and a woman too confused with love and hero worship to know what she was really doing. She was prepared to play pitiful Pearl if it suited her needs. What she wasn't prepared for was the truth. There was still no way she could believe that she'd done this to herself. Tape recording or no, signed confession or no. It was impossible. It couldn't happen. But apparently it had. And try as she might, she couldn't divine an answer. The more she tried to remember what had happened, the more frustrated she became. It was as if she'd fallen asleep while getting ready for work one morning and awakened in handcuffs. Between the two events was a chasm so vast and final that it never yielded the answers she knew lay at the bottom. And 3 years later, no matter how deep she delved, Anne-Marie knew that she was still barely skimming the surface. She took small comfort in the fact that it would have 7 more years. She took small comfort in the fact that she would have 7 more years of leisure time to dwell on it. The thought made her shudder. As much as she tried to tell herself that 7 years wasn't that much longer, 1986 still seemed more of a vague notion than an actual point in time that she could look forward to. How much would she miss? She quickly finished washing up, trying to erase the thoughts from her mind. But as she turned off the faucet, or tap, the magazine crumpled in the corner caught her eye. The rage returned as she scooped it up, balling loose pages in her fist. There has to be some way to explain this. There has to be some way I can get even. She took a few calming breaths and smoothed out the magazine to prove that she was still in control. If Tibor saw it crumpled on the floor, he would probably write her up for littering. She walked out of her cell, joining the other women lining up for dinner. Tibor and Hernandez, another CO, sauntered up and down the corridor. "Let's get in line, ladies," Tibor yelled. "Fall in." "What's it look like we're doing?" someone asked, just loud enough to be heard over the din of shuffling feet and muttered curses that seemed to comprise most of the prisoners' vocabularies. It was Evangeline, Anne-Marie saw, and she got in line next to her neighbor. "We've been doing this every day for how many years now?" Evangeline asked, turning to Anne-Marie. "Why do they have to tell us what to do if we're already doing it?" Anger sharpened her southern accent, making Anne-Marie smile. "It makes them feel useful." Evangeline snorted. "When have they been useful for anything? Except maybe to cause misery. A gentleman would never have acted like that. My daddy would never have acted like that. He'd teach him some manners." "Enough, Angie," Hernandez said from behind them. "Fall in now." He started to walk on, but Evangeline cleared her throat loudly, stopping him. "Excuse me, Mr. Hernandez," she said as he turned back, "but I feel I must remind you of something. God took great care to properly name all of his creatures, and my daddy, being a God-fearing man, took great care to properly name all of his children." "Good for him, Angie," Hernandez interrupted. "Now please fall in." "Excuse me?" Evangeline rode over him, her voice taking on the quality of impeccably mannered steel. The look in her eyes made the stone wall seem soft and rooted. The look in her eyes made the stone wall seem soft and rooted. Hernandez where he stood, his words forgotten. "As I was saying, my daddy took great care to properly name all of his children. He named my brothers Tobias, James, and Cody. They were referred to as Tobias, James, and Cody. My sisters were christened Ernestine, Isabella, and Theodora, and that's what we called them. He named me Evangeline." The slight woman seemed to tower over the broad man with the sheer conviction of her words. "Not Angie, not Lena, not Eva. Evangeline. I would appreciate it if that's how you'd refer to me. Considering the fact that I'm old enough to be your grandmother, you should call me ma'am." She held up her hands in a surrendering gesture. "But I know that I'm not your grandmother, and you have the authority." The word seemed mocking, even though Evangeline didn't emphasize it in any way. "So Evangeline will do." The guard stood in stunned silence for a beat until he realized the prisoner was done. "Yes, ma'am," he said quickly under his breath, seeming to surprise himself. Anger sprang up on his face, and he opened his mouth to say something, but he closed it immediately, realizing, Anne-Marie guessed, that anything he said now would only make him look even more foolish. He scowled at his shoes and turned away, walking up the line. Fall in, he practically bellowed. Let's go, ladies. Evangeline leered at his back, falling into line next to Anne-Marie. Like kindergarten it is. My Thomas, may God watch over his soul. She made the sign of the cross absently, anguish briefly painting her features. Had more manners at 10. Anne-Marie chuckled under her breath. Admiration didn't begin to describe what she felt for Evangeline. The COs might be in charge, but the older woman carried herself with a quiet, and sometimes not so quiet, dignity that implied she would have no problem sending anyone who stepped out of line to go cut a switch and meet her behind the woodshed. The woman was a beacon, a southern belle with no ball to attend, whose sane light had guided Anne-Marie through the insanity of prison from day one. At first, it was the only thing that pulled her through. Her first day had been a humbling experience, to say the least. Faceless, grey-clad guards leading her into the mammoth facility in chains. It was even uglier on the inside, smelling of damp and mold. She and the other new prisoners awaiting processing were packed like cigarettes into a holding area. She kept her eyes to the floor. Her pride wouldn't allow her to show the other women the fear and shame that were overcoming her anger. The officer waiting with them blew her whistle, told them to get back in line, and began removing the chains. A bell rang in the tiny room, rattling Anne-Marie's nerves. The guard herded them through the door on the other side of the room, and Anne-Marie took the first step into what seemed like a downward spiral to hell. Every step of the processing, from the showering to the medical examination to the cataloguing to the storage of her last personal possessions that she managed to keep with her, stripped her of her last vestiges of her cocky self-assurance. By the end of it, she was dressed in a pale green jumper, exactly the colour of the scrubs her father used to wear while working in the hospital. The number 064E76 stamped above her left breast. She was no longer Anne-Marie Reniere. She was the 64th inmate brought to E Block in 1976. Another female guard led her through the more musty corridors until they came to a black-painted iron door with a wire-reinforced window set to its upper half. The officer tapped on it with the end of her nightstick. A guard on the other side looked through the glass and opened the door, causing yet another bell to clang. This one pierced Anne-Marie's soul. Lieutenant, the officer said to her colleague as she led Anne-Marie to the block. The stout woman behind the desk nodded and picked up a clipboard. Anne-Marie Reniere? Yes, Anne-Marie replied under her breath. The shaky voice seemed to come from somewhere else. I'm Corrections Officer Ward. Are you listening? Anne-Marie nodded, looking at the other woman in the eye. My name is Ward, the CO repeated. I'm in charge of the block during the day, 5 days a week. If you have any problems, they tell another officer and they will tell me. Ward stood, bringing her bulk around to the front of her desk, coming toe-to-toe with Anne-Marie. I don't anticipate any problems. The rules are painted at the end of the block. She gestured to a yellow sheet of paper stuck to the wall next to the door. And they are to be followed to the letter. Any new rules will be posted by memo. It's your responsibility to keep up with them. Lockdown is 23 hours a day with 1 hour of exercise in the afternoon. Wake up is at 6, lights out at 11. Between meals, you can stay in your cell or get to know your neighbours on the block. It's your choice. You will do what the other officers tell you to do at all times. If not, you'll be written up or put into solitary, depending on how serious your offence is. Any questions? The tone of Ward's voice said she clearly didn't expect any. Anne-Marie shook her head. Good, Ward continued, resuming her place behind the desk and waving another officer over. Tibor will escort you to your cell. Anne-Marie turned to the guard approaching her. Tibor, she supposed, and began following. Women were scattered along the corridor in small groups, staring at her with dead eyes and whispering to one another. The talking got louder after she passed, the women getting braver when they didn't have to face her. More seemed inclined to joke with the guard at her side. Got yourself a new girlfriend, Tibor, said one woman who walked out in front of them, shaking her curly black hair back and forth. I thought I was your girl. Move it, Rosa, Tibor replied. You know I only have eyes for you. Rosa darted into an open cell on the other side of the corridor and peered at Anne-Marie, quickly turning her head away, and noticed that every woman ahead was looking at her the same way. She was on display, a new sow being brought to auction. She turned her eyes to the floor, away from the degrading stairs. What's the matter, girl? Yelled one of the women up ahead. You think you're too good to be looking at me? You're no better. We both got numbers. You're a number the same as me. Other prisoners began parroting the first one, yelling who she thought she was and who did she think she was better than them, and she was too good to be here with them. Anne-Marie felt heat rising in her cheeks at the continued hoots and demands as they rose to a cacophony that shot through her and caused something to snap. Yes, she yelled in a rage that had awakened in her, silencing the others. Yes, I am better than you. Better than every damn one of you, and I don't belong here. I don't belong here. She turned and started walking the opposite way down the corridor. Tibor was on her in an instant, grabbing her by the shoulder and trying to turn her around. This way, was all he said. She shrugged him off and kept walking. Take your hands off me, she spat. I'm not one of these animals. Tibor grabbed her around the middle, pinning her arms to her sides and lifted her, struggling to keep still. She fought back with everything she had. Other guards joined Tibor and surrounded her, pinning her to the floor and cuffing her hands behind her back. Get off me, she screamed, her voice getting lost in the din now coming from the other women. Don't you touch me, any of you! 4 guards, 2 on her shoulders and 2 on her legs, lifted her off the cold concrete and carried her struggling from the rest of the way to her cell, where they dropped her on her bunk and locked her in. Oh, look, there's a typo. That should be from, not form. Ward's face appeared at the grate set in her cell door, her eyes as calm and steely as her voice. Done? It wasn't really a question. Congratulations, you just earned your first charge seat. Creating a disturbance, assaulting an officer, and disobeying the rules. Any one of them would earn you a few days in solitary, if not worse. Anne-Marie couldn't imagine anything worse. But I'm feeling generous. Considering it's your first offense, I'll go light on you. No dinner tonight. Ward turned to leave, but stopped short and pinned Anne-Marie with a gaze that made the previous one seem friendly. Plus, I want you to think about what you did. I don't mean that in the way that a parent or teacher would. When I say think, I mean understand something. Really understand. You no longer have the power that you did on the outside. You're a subject to the rules of this facility and have absolutely no say in the matter. Not now, not in the future. Forget the bee-moving notions of favoritism and earning a better place for yourself. You don't do me any favors, and I don't do you any. There are no queens on my cell block. Only those who follow the rules and those who don't. Ward continued staring when she thought she was done talking, as if to try to drive the words into Anne-Marie's marrow. I trust there won't be any more theatrics. I will unlock your cell after the other inmates have eaten, so you can meet them. Although I don't know if you'll want to come out after what you've called them. Ward left Anne-Marie to stare at the section of her empty corridor that she could see through the door's window. During the conversation, if it could be called that, her rage had dissipated like fog in the sunrise, leaving tears in its wake that made hot paths down Anne-Marie's pulling cheeks. She buried her face in her hands and let the sobs come. She stayed that way until a knock on her door brought her back to her surroundings. A small black woman stood in the doorway, half in and half out of her cell. May I come in? The woman said, stepping into the cell. My name is Evangeline Robbins. We're neighbors. She looked at Anne-Marie and scowled. Wipe your nose, girl. Anne-Marie wiped her nose with the back of her hand. That's better, Evangeline said. It's not proper for a lady to go around looking like a mess. What do you want? I'll make it a habit not to speak to strangers. And seeing that you haven't properly introduced yourself, we're still strangers. My name's Anne-Marie Raniere. Who the hell did this woman think she was? Are you for real? Considering the fact that I'm standing here, that's a very silly question. Anne-Marie almost threw out her annoyance, but Evangeline intrigued her just enough that she didn't. Maybe it was the brightness in her eyes, which belied her the advanced years. She didn't have the hollow stare of the other women Anne-Marie had seen earlier. Another bell rang, snapping Anne-Marie out of her reverie. The dinner line started moving toward the iron door at the end of the cell block. Befriending Evangeline was the best thing she'd ever done. It had taught Anne-Marie the key to prison survival, the key to real power both inside its walls and out, dignity. The belief that Evangeline had in herself enabled her to carry herself with boastless pride that belittled her circumstances. "ID," said the guard from her station at the door. Too late, Anne-Marie realized she had left it in her cell. "Those damn roaches!" They halted the line for her, and an angry buzz rose from the women still waiting. Most times she would be forced to skip dinner just to teach her a lesson, but Tibor must have been in a good mood. He escorted her back personally. A blinding light tore through her and hurtled her soul into a blue void that expanded forever. She flailed through it at an impossible speed, yet could feel no sense of movement, no taste, no smell. Horror ripped through her, a dread that had no equal. She was lost, cast adrift, alone. A sudden force pulled her, drawing her atom by atom into the center of a swirling vortex that raged eternally. The nebula coalesced around her, gaining substance. Feeling was returning. She could faintly sense a heart beating, blood circulating. Cool air brushed against her skin. Sound met her ears, and she turned her head toward it. Vague shadows united and became two people wearing white coats, standing within arm's reach and speaking softly. The feeling of horror that had engulfed her before increased tenfold, and she let out a scream. Anne-Marie sat up with a start, gasping into the darkness that surrounded her. Clutched by fear, she reached over and switched on the small lamp on the nightstand next to her bunk. The light threw odd shadows in the familiar confines of her cell, low wraiths that she found more disquieting than the dark. In 3 years, she'd moved to better quarters, behaved herself, gotten privileges, but she was still in prison. She went to the sink, splashed cold water on her face, and rubbed it through her sweaty hair. The nightmare images faded quickly, leaving only a vague sense of unease. She looked into the mirror and forced herself to take a few deep breaths, willing her features to calmness. Nightmares had been a fairly regular occurrence ever since she got to prison, but she was sure these dreams were about more than having her freedom stripped away. They went deeper somehow, and were coming more often. She could never remember them afterward. The only calling card they left was cold sweat and confusion. She was sure they had something to do with the lapse of memory she suffered. She couldn't figure out how or why. Anne-Marie stripped off her drenched t-shirt and pulled a fresh one over her head. She sat on her bunk, fingering the law books stacked neatly on the night table, books that she hoped would show her some loophole to freedom. The rest of the table was covered with folded figures, paper animals for her own private zoo. At first she'd taken up origami to pass the time, but the delicate creatures had become something more. The skill necessary to create them was a tangible evidence that she wasn't just an animal living in a cage. It was one of the little tricks that Evangeline had taught her. But they offered little solace now. The perpetual wondering took its toll and demanded attention now and then, no matter what mental discipline she tried to maintain. How? The thought came to her so quickly and furiously that she swept the meticulously folded figures onto the floor and was halfway across the cell before she realized it. How did she wind up here? The answerless question weighed her soul down into the now familiar terrain of blind wonder. I can't stand by and let it strip me of my sanity. Someone did this to me. I'll figure out how and who, and they'll pay for it. She sat down again and took some sheets of paper from the bed table. She began folding, fighting to return to calm, absentmindedly switching the radio on low and letting the announcer's measured tones fill the silence. Despite Ward's little speech, there was a hierarchy on the block. Everyone but Ward seemed to know about it, and it didn't take Anne-Marie long to move into its higher circles. Hence the radio and the other bits of civilization. The plight of the Americans held hostage in Iran led the newscast. Other events of import were also reported, and the broadcast ended with a kicker about boy genius Sam Beckett being scheduled to give a piano recital in Carnegie Hall at the tender age of 22. Anne-Marie heard none of it. She was too busy concentrating on what kind of plan she could lay to find out who had wronged her. It would take time, she realized, considering what she had to work with, but she had plenty of time.
All right.
All right, chapter 2. I forgot all about the origami thing.
Yeah. How'd you come up with that? Do you do origami or is it like Blade Runner or something? What inspired
No, I do the that thing with the someone telling me who I'm going to marry and date, that little
Yeah.
Pac-Man thing.
And it
And
this
that-
was Laura, right?
Right. And penny.
Penny.
Penny. And that wasn't a typo, Hayden. It was he brought her form, her struggling form, not struggling from. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
yeah, you transpose
The
some letters
sentence
there.
makes sense both ways.
Either
Yeah,
way,
I've heard it both ways. Yeah.
yeah, I heard that about you. So I think
right.
it's. Is it
So how are
Stacey's
we
turn?
enjoying the story so far, everyone?
Mm.
It's been a few years. So
It's
I'm
been many
getting
years.
back into it.
It's been a while, yeah.
Have we got some comments?
Actually, we got some donations. Let me read those. We'll start off. We got a super chat on the YouTubes. Remember, we can super chat. Susie Q's never-ending jewelry supply list and TV talk podcast with House Place donated $5.
Oh, thank you, Susie Q.
Thank you for that, Susie Q. And then on keeping an eye on the GoFundMe. Let me refresh it just in case we got any more since I saw. And Matt's family got a donation for £20 from Willard. So thank you so much, Willard.
Thank you, Willard.
Thank you.
And remember, we do have that free gift giveaway going to one of our people who donate tonight, and that is a personalized autographed copy, Chris's copy, not just a copy, Chris's copy of Foreknowledge. So that's pretty cool. So get those donations in. And again, we'll be here every week in the month of November doing something, and most likely this. And some other things. All right. So thank you, Susie Q, and thank you, Willard. And keep them coming. All right.
And some
Chapter
nice
3.
comments here. Hang on.
Huh?
Little known fact, Kevin's great-grandson, Kevin the Fourth, lived in Quantum Leap headquarters and accidentally found himself on Sam's Fermi suit. Legend says he leaps from roach to roach, putting roach right that went roach wrong, hoping that each leap would be the leap home.
All right. Hayden's doing a good job with the voices. I agree. Yeah, I can't do that. I have Kelly Bundy brain, so I can't keep track of characters or anything.
I used to try to do voices, but I'm really bad at it. And someone recommended that I've ever read my own stuff aloud. Don't do voices. So I don't do accents. I don't do voices.
Yeah. One of the advantages of being a speed reader is I could kind of take a quick glance what was coming up and figure out what kind of voice I needed.
So Hayden's reading
But
on
it would
speed
be
tonight.
horrible if I was just reading like word for word exactly what I was seeing.
John says, "Damn roaches, Bob's apartment, shared universe." Oh, Bob's apartment, or is that
Jerry
Joe's
O'Connell.
apartment?
It
Yeah,
was Joe's
Joe's-
apartment.
I think I just got it on DVD and a big lot I got, and it's only available on full screen. I don't know if they filmed it on full screen or just they never put it out widescreen, but I can't find it. Roll me some tacos. Agreed. He's doing the voices really well. All right. Willard Black, our top donator at the moment. Wish I could donate more, but finances are tight at the moment. Well, thank you so much. And never extend yourself too far, anyone, but do what you can do, and we really appreciate it, Willard.
Yeah,
So you're in the running.
everything is appreciated. The fact that you guys are here watching with us.
Yes. And share and let people know.
John said, I'm loving this. I've never read the book before, sorry, Chris, and was worried that I might be lost since I don't consider myself a Quantum Leap superfan. Doing a great job of giving exposition for those who aren't as well versed while sprinkling in Easter eggs. There were a few more Easter eggs in that chapter, weren't there? Like Sam playing Carnegie Hall.
Yep.
Yeah, that was good.
That was good.
Yeah, I just love the description of the environment. I feel like I'm there. It
Just so
reminds
you
me of
know,
another book, The Seeker, that I love.
I did a lot of research for the women's prison thing to not make it like so cliche that it, but it's still in my, now I read it now, I cringe a little bit. Still seems a little,
Exploitation
little
movies-
cliche.
Exploitation movies from the 70s?
Yeah, pretty much, because I love especially women's prison movies from the
Women's
70s.
prison
So,
movies. It's
but
a
I
whole
really
genre,
did.
yeah.
I based it on a real place. I based some of Emery's experiences on the real experiences of a woman who wrote a memoir from prison. It was called "They Always Called Us Ladies," and I forget who was Jean something who wrote it.
Siskel.
So Jean Siskel, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
where do
so
you get the name Anne Marie? I dated an Anne Marie. Was that her?
That was my high school crush.
Hey, you know what? She was from New York, so maybe it's the same woman.
It could be.
We'll have
Well,
to
you put her
compare
in
notes
jail,
later.
so I suppose she must have broken your heart, didn't she, Chris?
Every woman broke my heart because they wouldn't look at me.
But it worked out for the best because he met his soulmate in Laura. Such a kind, beautiful woman.
So there we go. And so both Anne-Marie and Laura are mentioned in this book.
Yes, yes. Okay, I was going to give chapter 3 to Stacy, but she's gone again. She's a very busy person. So it looks like I'm elected. Oh, it happens to be a short chapter. That's perfect because I don't know.
Jeez, you're lucky.
All
That
right.
chapter was so long, my throat is so sore now.
I felt bad about halfway through. I'm like, what did I do to Hayden? But you did real good, Hayden. Okay. I'm just going to try to get by as best I can. I'm going to be reading chapter 3. A reminder why we're here. We're donating to Matt's family to GoFundMe. It's just Google GoFundMe, Matt Dale. It'll come right up. And there is a QR code on the screen that'll take you right there. And after this is re-uploaded at a higher quality, there'll be a link below.
Here?
So that's why we're here. And a reminder, the top donator gets a free gift from the author, Christopher D.
Albie John
Phillips.
says he can try chapter 3 if you would like.
Okay, that'd be great.
John gets Sam sleeping.
Can I get him on camera? Let's see here. I have him muted in silence. Let me see.
That's my
Yeah,
favorite
I
Simon
can
and
see
Garfunkel song, Muted in Silence.
Does he have a camera? Show.
Hello,
Hey!
Irons, my
Hey,
old friend.
Now we got the handsome. Now we
He's
brought
come
the
to read
handsome.
with us again.
Yay. All right, John, you got chapter 3. You might not know John, but you probably know John. He's from the Quantum Leap Podcast, Quantum Leap
Everyone knows.
After Show. He's from Captain Game Show. He's from all this cool stuff. From
And-
like something about a baked
From
potato
my mom,
network.
She's super cool.
We're getting a big echo since we activated John's mic.
Let me see here. Hey, John, go out and come back in again and tell him you got headphones on.
Creates echoes.
So go out, come back in, and say you got headphones on. Okay, he'll be right back.
I'm honored. John
I'm so
Irons.
glad John was able to come on screen. All right. Well, that means I'll
He
get a
liked the
longer
book that
chapter,
much.
though. Oh, no.
I'm surprised he never read it. Well, I'm not really surprised. I mean, who else besides us would have? I'm surprised Hayden read it, to be quite frank.
Hayden's a completist, I think.
It's very kind. It's very kind of any of you to read any of the nonsense that I put down on paper.
I carry it everywhere I go,
I
as you
can't
know.
refute it all unless I read it.
I was carrying this and holding it up in the subways in New York City and say, "I'm looking for the author. Has anyone seen him?" Has anyone seen him?
Yeah, we still
Okay.
got it.
Let me mute him real quick and see if that's it. Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, it's definitely John.
Okay, that's okay. He's worth it.
Well, it's got a button for me for echo cancellation, but it says I can't activate it while recording.
Oh, but did you do the wearing headphones?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought one was supposed to be the other thing. That's okay. We'll fix it in post. All right,
Sure.
chapter 3.
Should
is
I
going
should I
to
try it without the headphones?
The beautiful John Irons.
Should I try it without the headphones?
Yeah, try
No.
it without the headphones. It's really good. Go out, come back in. We'll fix it in post.
And the thing is,
turning it off and on again.
he's not echoing himself. So if we stay quiet while he reads, it'll be fine anyway.
Okay, I can mute everybody else, or we can mute ourselves.
Yep.
Okay, we got a chat. What do we got? Where are we? All right.
I'll be right back too.
All right.
Okay, Brian. Thanks for sticking as long as you have.
Yes, thank you.
I might go grab another drink too.
All right. We'll just
I have a
leave John
big
in here
water
by
bottle.
himself.
I have a big custom water bottle.
I have the same one, but I haven't used it yet because I don't want to ruin it.
Ooh, hi, John.
Hello, John.
Hey, can you hear us?
Can you hear us, John?
Now we're not echoing, but he can't hear us.
Hello, John.
John,
Can you hear us?
can you hear us?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
I think we've still got an echo.
We heard you for a second, John.
We hear him. He can't hear us.
Oh, okay.
He
Can you
needs to
hear
get
me,
his
John?
his earphones. Put him
I
in.
just got to change the speaker and turn up the
Can you hear
speaker.
the TV in the other room?
I can't. I cannot.
All right. Go yellow and black. Tigers, right?
John G.
Yeah.
just
Once you go yellow and black, you never go back.
Exactly. That's the best cricket team there is. Is that cricket?
Don't insult me.
It's football.
The only
It's
thing
rugby.
more boring than cricket is people talking about cricket.
It's footy, right?
That's right. That's better.
Right. I knew I'd get it.
so
Hey,
soccer.
Stacy's back.
Hey, Stacy. John's gonna come back. He's gonna try to read chapter 3.
Yep. So we're giving John a couple more seconds because
Stacy's having some issues.
tech setup.
It's okay. It could be worse. She could be in prison.
Apparently, Christopher and I are Eskimo brothers. We both know the same Anne Marie from New York.
Apparently, I don't know what Eskimo means.
You don't want to know what Eskimo Bros means.
I don't know if that's a term anymore. They might have updated it.
It is a term, but it's not for what you mean.
Okay.
I'm sure someone in the comments will be happy to enlighten you.
Yes, I'm sure.
So I'm trying to think of any stories that came up while writing the chapters.
You've never done origami.
I've never done origami. No.
I always do
I
origami.
can do paper airplanes.
Okay, that counts. That counts.
So
I can do all the things. I can do frogs, balloons. I once made a woman an engagement ring out of paper and put it in a paper box.
that explains a lot.
Yeah.
How about dodecahedron? Can you do a dodecahedron?
I can with the right template. I can always send some over if you want. I love the rotating ring of tetrahedra. That's cool.
Ship of Theseus. That's all I got right now. All right, it looks like John's gone. Is John coming? John? Ruffalo
And we've got
Taco.
another-
There's John. He put his earphones back in,
Yes,
We
exactly.
both like
Ruffalo
Eskimo
Taco. We both
pies.
like Eskimo pies.
and we're not
Hopefully
getting
they make
a
a sugar-free one soon.
we're not getting an echo from John's side anymore. So
Woo! How you doing, John? Testing
are
1,
you
2?
hearing me?
yep,
Hearing you good.
Yeah. Well, no echo.
no
No
echo.
echo.
Hey. Okay.
Awesome. All right, so John Irons is going to go with chapter 3.
All right. Chapter 3. The blinding blue maelstrom died as quickly as it had come, and feeling returned. Cold. It was the only thought that went through Sam Beckett's mind before he realized he couldn't breathe. Blackness surrounded him, and the panic that arose was blacker still. He flailed his arms and attempted to raise his head, but something was holding him face down in a murky soup that filled his eyes and nose. I'm gonna die! A muffled disco beat pounded through the ooze. And this must be hell's waiting room! Something slid under his face and hauled him up by the nostrils. He took a ragged breath and opened his eyes, but his vision was blocked by the hand tearing at his nose. Martial arts training and reflexes took over, and Sam grabbed his assailant's arm, twisting instinctively. The grip was slippery, but the attacker rolled off Sam's back and fell to the side, arm pinned. Wiping his eyes with his free hand did little to clear his vision, but he could see a crowd lit by blinking neon lights. They seemed to be cheering something. He ignored them in favor of getting a better hold on his attacker, but stopped short, staring. His opponent was a woman covered in mud. The remains of a bikini top were wrapped around her stomach, leaving her breast exposed. Oh my, Chris.
This is
I got the
good.
best chapter. The shock caused him to lose his grip. She grabbed him by the ears and brought his face down into her bent knee. The crowd roared louder. Sam landed on his back. He caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror suspended from the ceiling. A woman stared back, so covered in mud that he couldn't tell if he was also topless. A knee came flying out of nowhere and landed in his stomach, making him curl up. He fell flat again, his wind gone, as the other woman pinned his shoulders. 1, 2, 3, came a voice. We have a winner! A bell started dinging and the woman stood up, stomping around the ring with her arms raised in triumph. Let's hear it for Tawny! The announcer stretched every word, milking for the crowd. The crowd began chanting, Tawny, Tawny, Tawny. Sam plopped his head back into the mud, groaning. Oh boy. He rolled to his knees and shook his head. When he stood up, a few drunken boos disrupted the mantra, causing the crowd to ripple with laughter. A rowdy bunch of men surrounded him, excitement and naked lust painting their features. And let's hear it for the opponent, the announcer continued. Miss Candy Apple. Applause rolled over the over the booing, and Sam remembered that he was a woman, naked from the waist up. He quickly threw an arm up across his chest, hoping that it would provide cover. It did, if the crowd's rising rumble was any indication. He wanted to get the hell out of there, but had no idea where to go. He stepped out of the mud and joined Tawny and the announcer, hoping to take a cue from them. "Congratulations, Tawny," the announcer said. "What does this victory mean to you?" Tawny grabbed the microphone. "It proves that no one can stop me," she yelled, to the delight of the men surrounding them. "Mark my words, Richard. I will be Mud Queen." The whistles and cheering rose to a deafening level. "And you, Candy, will this stop you?" The microphone was suddenly under Sam's nose, shocking him out of his study of the crowd. Huh? The announcer's eyes widened with insistence. "Oh, no, Richard. It'll take more than this to stop me from becoming Mud Queen. You betcha." Tawny glared at him, then grabbed the microphone again. "We'll see about that," she yelled, turning to the crowd. "I will reign. I will conquer. I will..." She gasped abruptly, eyes going wide. Handing the microphone to Richard and covering her breast with her free arm, she quickly stalked off. Sam followed her, trying to ignore the hoots and whistles that trailed out of the room. He could feel the blood rising to his ears. What would my mother say? Tawny led him through a door and down a short hall. The mud was starting to dry on his face, creating an uncomfortable mask that pinched if he blinked. He was about to ask Tawny what happened, but she stopped at another door and caught him before he had the chance. "What the hell was that?" she said, the anger in her eyes the only expression visible through her own mud mask. "You almost broke my arm out there." "And you almost drowned me," Sam shot back. "What was I supposed to do?" Tawny shook her head, mud flaking like ashes to reveal the tips of her brown hair. "Let me. You knew I'd pull you up. That's one of the oldest moves in the game." She opened the door and walked in. Sam followed her into a small room. He didn't think it'd be called a dressing room. It looked more like a lounge. More women crowded inside, all wrapped in towels, hair dripping, with the exception of two in clean bikinis who were sitting on one of the low couches that lined the velvet papered walls. Cigarette smoke hung thick in the air. He was glad to see the two bathrooms at either side of the room. At least he wouldn't have to wait for a shower. He was less glad to see the observer standing in the corner. Al's grin nearly split his face in half, and his eyes gleamed as if he'd only just discovered the truth, and that beauty that lay within. Sorry, I'm sure I read that wrong. His eyes gleamed as if he'd only just discovered truth, and the beauty that lay within. His cigar stuck straight out of his face, forgotten, the smoke it created seeming to mingle with that of the girl's cigarettes. Sam sighed and dug through the bags piled next to one of the couches, hoping for some clue to tell him which to take. It wasn't hard. The bag with the bright red apple on a stick painted on his black canvas had to be it. He shouldered it and headed for a bathroom. "You're on," Tawny said to the two girls waiting on the couch. They got up and walked to the door, dragging aside from the observer. "So long, Kiki. Take care, Cookie," he said. He glanced at the bathroom Sam had started for. "See you after the match." Sam cleared his throat loudly. He cleared it twice more before Al noticed. "Sam," he said, clearly surprised. How long have you been here?" He let out a sheepish chuckle. "I didn't recognize you under all that mud." Sam walked past him and shut the bathroom door. By the time Al passed through the door to continue the conversation, Sam was washing the dried clay off his face. "You're a pig." "At least I wasn't rolling around in the mud," Al replied defensively. "Although I'd like to." He punched his hand leak absently. Sam turned the shower on. He paused. "Turn around, Al," he said sternly. The observer sighed dramatically and turned his back. Sam extricated himself from what was left of his bikini. "I don't care what Ziggy says," he said as he stepped into the shower, pulling the curtain shut. "I don't want to hear that I'm here so that Candy Apple can become the Mud Queen." He let the hot water roll over him, removing the mud's chill. "Candy Apple?" Oh, sorry. "Candy Apple," Al snorted. "Hell of a stage name. Your real name is Sarah Bullock." I'm guessing, was this before Sandra Bullock became a perfect?
No, I probably just put that as a placeholder and forgot to change it.
Your real name is Sarah Bullock. He paused, whacking the hand link. Ziggy doesn't really know why you're here yet. Sam could barely hear him over the running water. Does she have any theories, at least? He didn't want to stay any longer than he had to. He'd rather be shackled to Diane Frost again. Who the hell is Diane Frost? Swiss cheesing could be a real pain in the ass. It was like remembering snippets of home movies about people he didn't know. But there was one thing he always remembered. There was always one thing he always remembered hating about being a woman. And he knew that if he didn't leap soon, the high heels would be calling. He finished washing quickly, anxious to get on with things. Can you at least tell me where I am? Looks like who I happen to me. Sam didn't find it funny. Wilson, Arkansas, Al hurriedly continued. It's a small city about 25 miles south of Little Rock. You're obviously a mud wrestler, and you work in what appears to be a small club, probably on the outskirts of town. It's October 25th, 1988. Al paused, a smile spreading on his lips. Hey, you get your Nobel Prize in about a month. Sam glared at Al's back as he toweled off. And that's all Ziggy gave me for right now. Come on, Al, Sam said, admiring Sarah's features in the mirror and combing back long blonde hair. I could have found this out for myself. He slipped into a bathroom and be taken from Sarah's bag. So you could. That's all you have to say to me? I build the world's most advanced computer, and all it can give me is the date? You can't even give me the name of the club I'm in? What's wrong with her this time? He wrote over the beginning of the observer's answer. And don't go give me some bull about a screwy chip from Pago Pago. He paused. If you promise not to leer, you can turn around now. Al turned back to Sam, puffing his cigar. We don't know. Sam remained silent. She went a little bluey after your last sleep. Define a little bluey. She seems to have trouble getting information. She still hasn't told me what happened to the person you just leapt out of. How can that be? Sam asked. If I leaped, I had to change history. Finding that change should be the easy part. He rubbed the towel through his hair and twirled it into a turban. Al studied the hand link. Theoretically, that should be the easy part, but there are times when certain factors can screw it up. The witness protection program is one of them. Other people just disappear. Al was right, of course. In most cases, Sam heard the happy ending he had wrought. It was the thing he liked best. It almost made being stranded in time worth it. But at other times, the leap out was his only epilogue, saying that he did right or that he could do no more. He didn't like it, but that's the way it was. Then if she can't find this person, why didn't she just forget it? Well, normally she would, Al replied, but she's telling Gucci and Tina that she can't this time. She keeps saying something about conflicting information, but she won't explain. Conflicting information is impossible, Sam said. How can you get two histories from the same person? You either have the original history or you have what happens after I change things. Either way, events should be set. I don't know what's causing it, Al says. Gucci says it might be Alia. Sam says soft. Alia?
Aaliyah.
Aaliyah.
Oh, Aaliyah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I've never seen it written.
Yeah, me neither.
Aaliyah, Sam said softly. He might not remember much from Leap to Leap, but he'd never forget her. No, Al said. That's the first thing I thought of, too. Ziggy isn't reading another Leaper. Sam let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He didn't like the problem Ziggy was having, but he was glad Aaliyah wasn't the answer. Killing someone was something he considered his last possible option in any situation, but he wondered if he hadn't made a mistake there. When he let Aaliyah live, he knew he was defeating himself, but he just wasn't able to pull the trigger. The best he could do was hope that whatever had been leaping her had dragged her back to hell and done the job for him. Not a nice thought, but better than... Sam! Al's voice snapped him from his musings. Maybe you better get that? Huh? The door? There was a knocking as Al spoke. Maybe you should get it? Sam opened the door to reveal a woman caked in mud, barely recognizable as one of the girls who had left when he and Tawny returned. She'd managed to keep her top on, but not by much. Are you done in here, Candy? She asked. Oh, sure. Sam grabbed his bag and stepped aside, letting her in. It's all yours. Cookie. Al's voice was filled with concern. What did they do to you? Sam, it would be criminal if I didn't stay and help her clean up. Sam glared at Al until he punched the hand link with a sigh and vanished. He smiled at Cookie and closed the door behind him. A man approached Sam in the outer room. It was Richard, the announcer, with a handful of bills. Quite a show, Richard said softly, stopping in front of Sam. The vocal and animation he displayed for the crowd was almost completely gone, seemingly unsustainable without a microphone to prop it up. He counted out 450s from his money roll. I especially like the arm thing. He looked around the room furtively, lowering his voice even further. But don't tell Tanya I said that. She skinned me. He pressed the money into Sam's palm. Thanks, Sam said, pulling his robe closed. Don't worry, I won't say a word. Richard winked and moved on to another girl. Who's the weesp? Weesp?
Weesp. Weesp.
Weesp.
I don't know that word.
That's a
What's-
word that my dad always used for, like milk toast. Don't be a weesp.
Still
Who's
don't
the
get it.
weesp? Al asked.
I'll hold
Isn't
my
that what-
finger on it and see if I get a definition to pop up.
Isn't that what you're supposed to tell me? The hand link beeped and the observer squinted at his tiny screen. Oh, okay, Ziggy's finally getting something. That's Richard Danson. He owns this club, the Kit Kat Bar, with his wife, Kathy Sherber Danson. Al paused, frowning. Why does that name sound familiar? Maybe if you read on. Quit being so impatient. Al's concentration returned to the screen. It's not ladylike. The bar is home of the Mud Queens, mud wrestling troupe extraordinaire, which Richard helps his wife manage. Al gestured around the room with his cigar. You're apparently just one of the many fringe benefits of this job. Don't tell me, Al. Sam murmured into the hologram. I'm here to stop him from doing something else to one of these women. Ziggy
Not something else. That's a very important distinction. I'm here to stop him from doing something to one of these women.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I was drawing my own conclusions.
Yes.
My mistake. I'm here to stop him from doing something to one of these women. Ziggy gives that only 9%, Al said, much to Sam's relief. Apparently, he's one of the quiet ones you don't have to watch out for. He treats them all very well. He makes sure they're paid on time, have clean bathrooms, and generally pleasant work environment. No need to worry about him. Think he's a pretty stand-up guy. The observer paused again, trying to figure something out. Richard Danson. That sounds familiar too. I'm sure the answer will come to you when you're in an environment with fewer distractions, said Sam. He dug through his bag, pulled out a pair of jeans, and slipped them on. He discreetly drew a t-shirt over his head. He had perfected the art of getting changed in front of people without actually undressing, something he found necessary from leaping into so many women. Not wearing underwear made it a bit easier. He had discovered early on that sliding into a pair of ladies' panties and a bra wasn't something he enjoyed. Walking around without underwear wasn't either, but it seemed the lesser of two perversions. Okay, what am I doing here then? The observer frowned. Give it a minute. Sam spotted Tanya across the room, dressing in leisurely fashion. She seemed to have no reservations about bearing all in a crowded room. Still, Sam waited until she pulled a t-shirt over her head before approaching her. Tawny pinned him with an angry stare, and Sam raised his hands as a gesture of surrender. I'm sorry about before, he said quickly. I didn't mean to hurt you. Tawny's ire dissipated. Don't worry about it, she said. I'm not really mad at you. Was it someone you saw in the crowd? Tawny looked up sharply. What makes you think I saw anyone? Why else would you run out of the room like that? Look, she said, putting her money in the back pocket of her jeans and digging her car keys out of her bag. It's none of your business. I'm going home. Oh, no, you don't, came a woman's voice from behind them. You still have to sign posters at the bar for that bachelor party. The groom is waiting. Sam turned to face the owner of the voice. Ripe was the word he would have used to describe her. She was in her late 50s or very early 60s, but a heavy layer of makeup, just short of too much, kept Sam from making a clear distinction. She wore her long blonde hair, obviously dyed, loose around her shoulders as a younger woman would have, and one look at her long eyelashes confirmed that she didn't believe in mascara, those puppies were false. A simple black bustier that accentuated her more than modest proportions, and a hip-hugging skirt that ended mid-calf completed the package. Man, I'm just rewriting your whole book, man.
It's okay.
You're not the first one.
A simple black bustier that accentuated her more than modest proportions and a hip-hugging skirt that ended mid-calf completed the package. Sam was sure she had left her feather boa draped around the back of a chair somewhere. The woman wasn't vainly clinging to her youth, he decided, so much as she was paying homage to a time when her features were more delicate. The groom can kiss my ass, and so can you, Tani replied quietly. She stalked out the door and slammed it behind her. The older woman rounded on Sam. What did you say to her? Nothing. I apologized. Okay. She gestured to the towel wrapped around Sam's head. Finish your hair and be in the bar in 5 minutes. Al had been watching the exchange, wide-eyed, mumbling to himself. Kathy Sherbert Danson, Cat Sherbert, Kit Kat. Realization struck him as the woman sauntered away. Kitty Cat! Sam, that's Kitty Cat! Huh? Kitty Cat, you know, the actress. Al's expectant look turned into a frown when he saw that Sam clearly had no idea what he was talking about. You're kidding me. Don't tell me you never saw Kamikaze Vampire Sorceresses? Sam looked blank. How about Die Virgins Die? Are those movies? Al raised his hands in frustration. Of course they're movies. Great ones. From the golden age of sexploitation films. Al's face took on a nostalgic cast. I guess it is a little before your time. But in the late 1950s, early 1960s, Cats movies helped transform American cinema. Die, Virgins Die. Don't scoff, Al said seriously. Films like that charted a lot of forbidden territory back then. Open doors. They almost single-handedly made the drive-in possible. Sam shook his head. Cheesy B movies did all that. Technically, they were B movies. I don't think kids ever won above a C minus, though. And Dickie Danson. Who'd have thought a tomato like her would end up with a bit player like Dickie Danson? What vital role did he play in our cinematic history? Not much of one. He was always the geek who got killed in the first half hour, after whining lines like, "But you can't go off and join the Chopper Vixens. We have a math test on Monday." Or, "Golly, gang, maybe we should wait for the sheriff to get here before we check out that meteor crash." Sam laughed. So you're saying he was the voice of reason? The last thing you need when things are getting hot and heavy with your date in the backseat of the drive-in.
Drive-through.
I could tell you some tales. I have seen that movie in the drive-in.
Forgot the.
The last thing you need when things are getting hot and heavy with your date in the backseat of the drive-in is a movie expounding reason. Al shot back. I think Dickie's best work was that part in Carnival Hell when the Freakazoid gargoyle set his face on fire. He was very convincing as he ran down the street screaming. Sam couldn't suppress a chuckle at that one. He was amazed at the endless store of inane knowledge his friend possessed. Okay, so why am I here? To stop Richard from bursting into flame again? Let's hope not, said the observer, returning to his study of the hand link. Ziggy still, the sound of shattering glass cut Al off. The two men were quickly on the move, Al relocating, and Sam running to the bar. He was relieved to see that no one was hurt. It could easily have been otherwise. Though, judging by the size of the rock that was surrounded by the shards of what had once been the top pane of the glass in the club's front door. Cat brushed past him in a fury, almost knocking him over. "What the hell?" was all he heard before she was out of earshot. He trailed her into the parking lot, but stopped short when he was met by an angry mob of picketers parading back and forth, signs raised. Sam joined Al, who stood a bit to the side, puffing his cigar pensively, hand link all but forgotten. "Ziggy might be on the fritz," he said, "but I think we just found out why you're here."
End of chapter 3.
Good job, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you for
Wow.
getting some laughs out of the chapter.
Chris,
Thanks
I
for
know
writing
I've
a
been,
funny chapter.
I
So,
know I've been
Chris,
pressuring you to
did
write
you
a
ever see
sequel.
Die Virgins Die or what was the other one? The one about the vampires? Kamikaze Vampire Sorceress?
I plead the fifth.
in the drive-in in 3D. Chris, I know I've been pressuring you to do a sequel to The Seeker, but after hearing that chapter read by John, I think I want an audiobook written by you in this universe of mud wrestling.
Okay, you got it. It's funny. One of the only notes I ever got back from Universal when they were approving and reviewing the book, they said no more locker room scenes.
And you're like, you threw out
Right, I threw out.
the other 2/3 of it. Like, it was all locker room.
Yeah, this was actually a 3-part epic.
I'm glad that you mentioned Aaliyah, because it's always good having another Easter egg there. And it did make me think, have any of you seen the alternate ending to Deliver Us from Evil? I'm pretty sure it's on Owl's Place, isn't it, Brian?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually like that alternate ending better, where it looks like Sam actually is going to kill her. And I think he probably should have. The only reason that I think they didn't is because they wanted to keep the evil leaping storyline going for a couple more episodes. But yeah, really, if you're in that situation, you have to neutralize the threat. So if I was writing it, I would have had him kill her. But that's
Then we wouldn't have had another great Quantum Leap prison episode. So
true. Oh, they could have sent another leaper, I guess. Because it wouldn't stop the project. It would have
While Stacy has a
only stopped that one.
yeah.
threat.
I don't
Stacy,
hear
do you
John.
think your connection will last long enough to do chapter 4?
You know, we can try.
We'll try it. I'll take over if you drop out somehow. All right. So
Okay.
Stacey,
All right.
So
Chapter
just so
4.
everybody knows, we have 2 more chapters to go. If you have not yet, please click on the QLP code thingy. What's it called? What's that thing called?
QR code.
The QR
It
code.
means, I watched the whole
QR code.
Veritasium about him. Quick, what is it? Quick reference or something?
I don't know. Quick reference code. So and
Sounds about right.
donate. Let's raise some money for Matt's family as this
So,
holiday
Albie,
season
is
approaches.
Yeah.
Let's kick
Albie,
off the
is
month
there
of
another
Matt.
way that people could donate if they can't use the QR code?
Yeah, you go to GoFundMe. Let me get the link. I'll read it out. It'll be on the video later, but it is. Let's see, copy link or short link, website widget. Oh my goodness, I don't know. Okay, https://gofundme.me/d. Oh, that doesn't help. It's got ...
Yeah.
All right. There's a
Just go to
shorter-
GoFundMe and search for Matt Dale.
Yeah. Google Matt Dale GoFundMe.
Yeah.
And also we are accepting super chats. Walmart. YouTube does take a little bit of that, so I think it's better to go right to the GoFundMe. But we will take super chats, and those will make their way to Matt's family via me.
As well.
Are we live on YouTube at the moment?
We
Sorry,
are
I have
live
no
on
idea.
YouTube. We're
live on YouTube.
live on YouTube and Riverside.
That's very dangerous, you know.
It
Having
is,
me on
especially
live
with
television.
the crew we've assembled. But so
Right.
far, so good.
And John, I'm I don't know that I'm surprised that you never read the book, but I'm glad that you're enjoying it enough to take yourself out of self-imposed exile to come and read a chapter. I hope you're enjoying it enough to do that anyway.
Am I
Right,
self-imposed?
yes.
No, I'm I'm the one who put in the message like shout out to Mobile because I'm actually in Alabama right now. I am visiting
are you?
family. Yes. Which is why I wasn't sure if I'd be able to join at all.
Let me see.
But
How's the
I
weather
am-
there?
Not bad actually. It's
So-
actually pretty nice.
Well, that dig at Mobile, that Sammy Jo Mobile of all places is actually canon. That's where she wound up in the original history, writing in computer manuals in Mobile, Alabama. And like there was a beat, and Sam and I looked and said, "Mobile," like it was a fate worse than death.
That's funny. Ruffalo Taco says, no more locker room scenes.
No more wire hangers.
Probably quoting Universal.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm interpreting that as he's angry because there were no more locker room scenes.
I know,
Sorry.
it was getting good. I was getting interested. Okay. So we got chapter 4, and Stacy's going to do it. And remember, Matt Dale, GoFundMe. Give what you can. Much appreciated. And we do have that giveaway, that gift from Christopher D. Philippus, the personalized autograph copy of Foreknowledge that he's holding in his hand right now. So it has his fingerprints and DNA. So if you plan to commit a crime, that's a good deal.
Ooh.
You can clone a Chris.
Yep, clone of Chris. Ooh, let me write that down. I need to. Okay. Stacy,
Call him
chapter
Chris
4.
Du Philippus.
All right, ready?
Yes.
Chapter 4. What do we want? Decency. When do we want it? Now. A crowd was picketing in the parking lot, chanting their mantra over and over. They looked to Sam like a pretty good cross-section of people. Bearded men in overalls and baseball caps, almost the required uniform for farmers, marched next to men and women in expensive casual clothes that said their work with the soil didn't go much further than paying. Whoops. I didn't touch it long enough. Sorry. Didn't go much further than paying someone to keep their
No, we're
lawns
past
tidy.
that chapter. Okay.
Wow, wait. That's I had to cut that chapter too.
Universal.
Woo.
No more locking
Most
things.
carried signs bearing slogans like "Stop the Slop" and "No More Mud." Others read, "I believe in the Rural Purity League," or more simply, RPL. Sam's gaze fell on a thin man with white hair and glasses who walked back and forth in front of the crowd. If his strut didn't prove he was head of the group, his bullhorn clearly did. He wore an expensive gray suit with a blue tie that brought to Sam's mind flashes of Jeb Olson, the longtime mayor of Elkridge, Indiana. Jeb had carried himself in a friendly but puffed up sort of way, and he knew how to play the townspeople like a fiddle when he needed to. This man was a bit slimmer and clearly not as open, but he looked as if he could have given old Jeb a run for his money. People from the media were already on the scene, and the man strutted in front of the cameras like a seasoned pro. "Who normally coverts in mud, people?" the man shouted into his bullhorn. "Pigs," the crowd replied. "Can we blame the pig for staying in its natural habitat? No. No is right," the man continued into the bullhorn. "But here we have humans doing the same. Why, this mud hole is not only an insult to our town, it's even an insult to pigs." The crowd roared in approval, marching double time. "Let's stop the slop for men, women, and pigs everywhere," the man continued. "Stop the slop! Stop the slop!" the crowd parroted, caught up in the moment. Kat stalked forward. "I should have known it was you, Beringer," she practically growled. She planted herself in the man's path, hands on hips. Beringer didn't stop until the two were almost nose to nose, determined look matching determined look. "Al," Sam said to the hologram. "2 steps ahead of you," the observer replied. "That's right, Gushy Beringer," he said to no one Sam could see. "See what you can come up with on the Royal Purity League, too." "Just what the hell do you think you're doing?" Kat asked. "We're protesting the degradation of our town by your filthy establishment." The man stepped back and raised his bullhorn to the crowd. "Will we stand for it anymore, people?" "No," the crowd roared back. Sam's view of the confrontation was becoming obscured by a group of reporters gathering around them, microphones and cameras vying for sound bites and video. "First of all, I doubt that 2 in 20 of this arrogant mob even know what the word degradation means," Kat said icily. "And second of all," she held up the rock that had shattered the glass in the front door, "how'd you plan on shutting me down? By killing one of my patrons?" Beringer didn't miss a beat. "That rock is just a symbol of the rage our townspeople feel towards your tawdry establishment." He raised the bullhorn once again. "Right, people?" "Right," responded many voices. Kat grabbed the bell of the horn and pulled it out of Beringer's hands. Raising it to her mouth, she said, "Well, you can all tell it to the judge. The police are on their way." The effect was almost instantaneous. The crowd thinned to almost nothing as people disappeared into the night. "That's just what I thought." Kat lowered the horn and gave it back to Beringer with a satisfied smile. "I guess you'll be sticking around long enough to get thrown in the clink. Makes for good press, right? Dedicated to the cause and all." Beringer turned toward what was left of the group, trying to rally the ragged strands that remained. "Stand firm, people. Stand up for your beliefs. Show them that our crusade goes deeper than grabbing headlines." He started to march back and forth again, retrieving one of the signs that a less dedicated rabble-rouser had dropped during retreat. "She's made a life starring in sleazy freak shows, people. Do you want that type here, corrupting our quiet ways, twisting our youth?" "That type, Beringer? That type?" Kat's eyes narrowed as she grinned slightly, her features becoming as feline as her name. "What type is that? The wrong type? Why, I do believe you've forgotten your white hood." "Don't try and confuse the issue, madam. Don't try and confuse the people about the truth. Beringer turned his appeal on reporters. You see, don't you folks? In the face of decency, she has only one tactic to rely on. He turned back to Kat. Well, try and make me look bad if you can. Paint the worst picture that you know how. I have faith in our townspeople, faith that they can recognize the truth when they see it. Why, I was born and bred here in Wilson, and I consider it my obligation and privilege to serve the fine people of this community. Sam stopped listening. He had heard enough to know where this was going. Never mind giving old Jeb a run for his money. Compared to old Jeb, Beringer was a guru. Sam leaned toward Al, trying not to be too obvious. Not that it made much of a difference. All eyes, natural and electric, were focused on Beringer as he paced in front of the gathering. This guy is good, he said. I hope I don't have to confront him publicly to get through this leap. It sounds like he could talk circles around an auctioneer. What'd Ziggy say? Al? Sam shifted his attention from Beringer to his friend. The observer had batted the hand link. He clearly hadn't heard a word Sam had said. Damn it, Gushy. I don't care what she says the problem is. You have the guy's name, for Pete's sake. A flurry of chirping erupted from the hand link, and Al smiled. That did it. He looked at Sam. She never could take criticism. Our goose-stepping friend is Rex Beringer. He's Wilson's Mr. All-America. He serves on the town council, and recently he made it his pet project to shut down Kat's Bar. Why? I can't say the entertainment is my cup of tea exactly, but it seems perfectly harmless. Well, the reason is less than selfless. He's using it as a trump card in his mayoral campaign. As if he needs it, he's running unopposed. And Ziggy says this isn't the first incident where Beringer's acted as ringleader. Al began punching the glowing buttons furiously. The information now seemed to be coming faster than he could read it. Slow it down, damn it, the observer grimaced as he waved his cigar in an arc around his head. Quit trying to overcompensate. He stopped flailing and made a satisfied grunt. That's better. Mud on, Ziggy.
Mud on, Ziggy. That's an Italian thing.
What does it mean?
Forget about your ego for a few seconds and just do your job. And I don't want to hear any more about Anne-Marie. Al continued poking the hand link, sorting the data the computer fed him. But from the way he cocked his head, he was on the receiving end of a comment Sam couldn't hear. Oh, yeah? Well, you're more trouble than any of my wives ever were. Sam was at the end of his patience. Are you two done? Al listened again, smirking. Her Majesty wants me to tell you she apologizes. The hand link chirped in affirmation. Brown noser, the observer mumbled. Al. Calm down, Al said, trying to appease his friend. Beringer is backed by this Rural Purity League. The local newspaper describes it as a kind of consortium. Beringer supporters who have the same, shall we say, sensibilities. But it's not clear who needs who more. Without league support, Beringer probably wouldn't have the funds he needs for his campaign. But without Beringer and its mouthpiece, there wouldn't be enough interest in the league for it to exist. Fortunate for them to have found each other, Sam said sarcastically. Oh, it's a cozy relationship for sure, Al continued. With the league to legitimize his authority, coupled with his seat on the town council, Beringer's been citing the club as the root for almost all of the town's woes. According to him, it's the cause of everything from increased drug use to the decline of morals and the erosion of family values. I know something about small town life, Al, Sam said. I think it'd be a little hard for him to make generalizations like that stick. On the contrary, Al continued, the townspeople are eating it up. There's a presidential election this year, and the war on drugs is one of the hottest issues. So is family values. People are convinced that the country is in a bad way. Drug use has been on the rise everywhere, including here in Wilson. A local high school student died of an overdose this past summer, according to the paper. Al scowled at that bit of information. Anyway, he continued, it's creating the perfect little petri dish for Beringer to grow his idealistic mold in. The club is cheap. The club is tawdry. The club doesn't fit with the conservative 1950s ideology Beringer is selling as a cure-all. How can people be so blind, Sam said. Well, the town has gotten a bit of a swelled head recently, the Observer said. Some national magazine rated it as one of the top 5 places to live in the entire U.S. Good school system with advanced academic programs in place, excellent medical facilities. Even the local farmers have had slightly better luck than others around the country. How could something that positive lead to this nonsense? Well, they didn't count on the bad stuff that's bound to come along with the good. Drug use is up because the population is up. The fact is, that kid probably would have died whether or not that article was printed. People from the cities are coming here in droves to raise their kids in a safe, small town environment, Al said, puffing on his cigar. But each new family that comes in changes that environment a little more. I guess you can call it the erosion of traditional values if you like. The simple fact is that this town has been introduced to as many new ideas as different ways of doing things in the last few years as would normally happen in a generation. So the locals are a bit shell-shocked, Sam nodded. But they must have been progressive thinkers in the first place to attract so many new residents, wouldn't they? This reaction seems a little extreme. I'm sure that at one point Dr. Frankenstein was also a progressive thinker, with plans that looked great on paper. The locals are simply afraid of change. And as for Cat's Bar being the focus of their anger, well, it's always easier to pin your problems on one demon, especially one that you can see so clearly. Beringer is relying on that mentality. Come the beginning of next month, it lands him the mayor's seat. Al shook his head. Small towns. Sam shook his head too. Not small towns, this town. The cause of his worsening mood finally struck him. From almost the first day he had left Elkridge, he had found himself fighting the conventional wisdom that said people in small towns were ignorant, closed-minded hicks, even, and sometimes especially, with Al. While it was true that clubs like Cat's didn't ordinarily get much outward praise where he had come from, they weren't harassed as long as they remained discreet. The people of Wilson were letting him down in a way, playing into the old stereotype. I'm sure that there are 30 or so people who are here tonight didn't represent the majority, Sam continued, more defensively than he would have liked. They were only the handful that Beringer could rile up. Okay, Al said, raising his hands in surrender. I forgot who I'm dealing with. I'm sorry for making generalizations. Geez. He lowered the hand link and squinted at the readout as more information came up. The fact remains that Beringer gets elected and the club gets shut down. Oh, this is getting worse, Sam. What? Ziggy says that when the club closed down in the original history, most of the girls who work here wound up with less than kind fates. Less than kind? Dreams shattered, opportunities gone, you name it. Al shook his head once more. Each of the girls has her own story and her own reasons for working here. Some are single mothers using the job to support their families. Others are working their way through school, and this is the only job they can find that pays enough. Sam could tell his friend was hedging. Why? What else is there, Al? Well, as cliched as it sounds, this club's also a haven for a few of them. Steady work, a safe and stable environment. He gestured at Kat, who was walking quietly with Richard by the ruined front door. Parental figures. Without the guidance of Kitty and Dickie, they're lost. AIDS, hooking, drugs. Sarah's one of them, right? The Observer nodded. Damn, what can I do? Ziggy says you need to stop Beringer from shutting down the club. That's pretty obvious, Sam said, looking again at the man marching back and forth. But how? He obviously won't change his position. Not if he's using it to get elected and his continued funding depends on it. And I doubt I can get him to drop out of the race. Sam began to pace, mirroring Beringer. He didn't mind tough problems. Most times, in fact, he welcomed them. They gave leaping more meaning. They helped him feel like he was really making a difference, not just acting as a time-drifting quick fixer. But the most likely courses of action, however unlikely they seemed at times, usually presented themselves. Nothing was coming to mind now. I've got Ziggy working on different scenarios, Al said. She should have some answers if... He looked into space and raised his voice slightly, directing the last part of his comment elsewhere. If she ever gets her act together... Here we go again, Sam laughed in frustration, and his pacing became more agitated. Maybe he took Ziggy for granted most times, but why was there always something wrong with her just when he needed her most? Of course, when it came down to it, asking that question was a more roundabout way of questioning his own supposed brilliance. He did design the parallel hybrid computer, after all. Was the fact that he had to rely on his gut instinct most times simply his I can't say that word.
Comeuppance.
Thank you. From God, her fate, or whatever? The boy wonders, slap on the wrist, for deciding he could screw around with such a fundamental element as time? Hubris theories aside, he was beginning to realize more and more that he was responsible for his own actions, and that his mental safety nets, like Ziggy and Al and the project, were becoming less relevant than the years of leaping went on. His pacing took him past the corner of the building, and his musings ended abruptly. There were two figures down the alley, talking in the pool of light that came through the club's open side door. He didn't know who the man was, but the woman was definitely tawny. And her mood didn't seem to have proved much. The two were arguing loudly enough that Sam could hear their voices, but he couldn't quite make out what they were saying. Al, he gestured for the observer to come look, and pointed down the alley. What can you tell me about this? Al punched the hand link and repositioned himself next to Sam. From the constant blip the hand link was making and Al's continued silence, Sam knew the answer wasn't forthcoming. Listen, Sam heard Tawny say clearly. This conversation is over. I don't know how you found me, but just leave me alone. She began to stalk off, but before she had gone more than a couple of steps, the man grabbed her from behind. Oh no, he said just as loudly. You don't get to walk away from it all again, not this time. Let go, Tawny struggled in the man's grip. Sam didn't need Ziggy to tell him what to do. He ran down the alley, grabbed the man by the shoulder, and yanked. The man spun around, letting Tawny go. Before he could do more than be surprised, Sam's foot connected with the side of his face, and he crumpled on the ground in a grunt. Oh, hell, Tawny cried. She dropped to her knees and rolled the man over, cradling his head in the crook of her arm. The look she shot Sam was 10 times more deadly than the kick he had just given. What the hell is it with you in this kung fu crap tonight? The man moaned and his eyes began to focus. He looked from Tawny to Sam and back. What do you mean? Sam said, confused. I was trying to help. Tawny sighed. I never asked for your help, but since you insist on butting in anyway... She gave Sam a sardonic look that matched her voice. I guess introductions are in order. She lifted the man's head slightly and raised her voice. Kyle, his eyes struggling to meet hers. The girl who just decked you as Candy, also known as Sarah. She wiped the blood that was starting to trickle out of his nose. Terrific, she said under her breath. She turned her attention back to Sam. Sarah, the man lying here bleeding all over me, is Kyle. You know this creep? Sam asked, starting to feel defensive again. Could he do nothing right with this woman? All my life, Tawny replied. That's not just any creep. He's my brother.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. All right. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you. That was great.
And I'm
We
still
got Sam's-
connected.
And we're still connected. We got Sam's leap in there. A little just some background on that. I based Wilson, Arkansas, which is a complete fabrication. I named it after Joanne Wilson, who's mentioned in the opening in the acknowledgments. But it's based on the town where I went to school, Columbia, Missouri. And it really was rated one of the best places to come live while I was at school there. And there was a lot of influx of people that was changing the town. And the strip club had just opened somewhere off campus. And a lot of people were protesting it. Of course, it wasn't like this whole World Purity League thing, but a lot of the stuff, again, like I researched the prison stuff, a lot of this stuff was drawn from my own experiences when I lived in the Midwest for about 2 years.
Write
FYI.
what you know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Sounds
once
like
they start
the-
describing Kyle, it took me about 25 years to realize this. Kyle's just me. So
Ah,
I didn't realize it at the time. I never realized it but after I read the book for the first time in about 15 years or so, I said, Jesus Christ, could you just put yourself in your fiction, you hack? So anyway.
only you know that, though. We're enjoying it. So
It
Matt,
sounds
Matt.
like there was quite a bit of inspiration from what was the episode? Private Dancer, I think it was the one where Sam was the stripper and helping the other
Yeah,
girls.
you know,
Very
the
similar sort of themes there.
funny thing is, a lot of the stuff, like Muron, like I say it as Muron, like that's an Italian phrase that my dad used my whole life. But this was like before the internet that I was writing this, so I couldn't look it up. I tried looking up that phrase, and it's actually something completely different. I just hear it as Muron. So if you look it up, you can maybe find the slang word that's correct. But as far as I knew back then, and I had no one to bounce it off of, that's what I used. Another thing that you might have noticed in this is my philosophy on mirror image coming through, where Sam is musing to himself that the connections and his safety nets like Ziggy and the project and Al are becoming less and less relevant as he leaps on, as he becomes, more seasoned. And I think that that's a central tenet of mirror image and one of the reasons I love it so much. So I creep in a lot of mirror image stuff. He even says in an early chapter sometimes, but that's the way it is, and sometimes
I also like that
that's the way it is.
I also like that you mentioned in a previous chapter, Sammy Joe talking to Ziggy about how Sam's retaining a little bit of each LP that he has, so he's essentially losing a bit of himself every time. And the wondering of, how much Sam is actually still out there left in Sam, and is there going to be a point where eventually he's not Sam anymore? And what's going to happen then? Can he ever pull himself together and end up back up? But that's probably the reason we never saw him again, because Sam probably doesn't exist anymore by now.
No, Sam exists. He just chose to keep on leaping and doing good. But we can.
May
So I
I
don't know.
ask
What?
why you so often call Al the Observer instead of Al?
In all of the scripts for Quantum Leap, Al is referred to as the Observer, in capital V, capital Observer. And it's a convention that carried over to the novels.
Cool.
And I think there are other characters occasionally named Al as well, so it's to avoid confusion with them.
It's also just so you don't keep writing Al, 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 Al,
Yeah, I was wondering if that was why. But, yeah.
So
can you do that again, Chris? I was enjoying it.
Al, 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 Al. Albie, you haven't read yet. Do you want to read chapter 5? Do you want me to finish off with chapter 5?
Chapter tonight, so I was hoping you could bring us home, Chris.
Sure.
Because I have another live stream to do after this, and I want to
Gotcha.
save my voice.
And
Gotcha.
actually, I'm sorry, everyone. I have to get going because I have another appointment.
All right. Thank you so much,
so-
Hayden.
Thank
for
you,
joining
Hayden,
us.
so much.
And,
Short
come back
chapters. I'll read
again.
the rest on my own. I swear I can read.
We're doing it 3 more times.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we only have 10
So,
pages left for those who are watching at home. So chapter 5 is a pretty short chapter.
Oh, is it?
So we're just
It was
about
good to see you all,
done.
and,
Yep.
Yeah, I'll
and
be back
reminder
for
while we're
the
here.
next one.
Thank you, Hayden.
Thanks,
Can
Hayden.
I just
Love
close
you, man.
this, or
See
do
you
I need
soon.
to do anything in particular?
All right. And reminder while we're here is
Wait,
we're doing
Albie,
this
Hayden,
to-
Hayden had a question before he logs
Oh,
off.
did he? What was it?
Yeah. Can I just close this, or do I have to do anything? special?
You exit, but then leave the browser open until you're fully uploaded. That way you'll be in
Alright, so-
higher quality when the export goes out. So just
So-
hang up, but keep the
Okay.
browser open
That's
until
fair.
you're
All right,
uploaded.
no worries.
complete. Just like the old
Alright.
days.
Yeah.
I'll
Thank
I've
you so
heard
much,
it like
friend.
10 times this episode already.
No worries. Yeah.
All right. And that goes for all of y'all. All right. The reason why we're here is to celebrate our friend Matt Dale. And he's been gone almost a year now. It's been rough, but it's been rougher, I'm sure, on his family. So we're doing everything we can to support Matt's family. And right now, that is silly things on our YouTube channel to have fun with Quantum Leap that he loves so much. And just to get some donations to his GoFundMe. So we are taking super chats if you're on YouTube with us. And there is a QR code up in the corner for GoFundMe, or you can just Google Matt Dale GoFundMe, and it'll come up. Give what you can. And that's what we're doing. We're celebrating our friend Matt Dale all November long. November is the month of Matt. All right, bring us home, sir. The author of the book, reading chapter 5 of Foreknowledge.
Chapter 5. Was your family happy during the holidays? Amory looked up from her turkey dinner and studied her friend Evangeline. Never really came out. Okay, and studied her friend. I forgot to put my glasses on. I didn't see that period right there. Okay, there we go.
You look sexier in glasses. I think.
Thank you. These are my reading glasses. They're my cheap ones. Anne-Marie looked up from her turkey dinner and studied her friend. Evangeline never really came out and asked questions like that. Some things just weren't done, no matter how close a friendship got. Questions that solicited personal information not given freely fell into that category. Not that Anne-Marie hadn't asked a question or two early on. She'd gotten an answer the first time, but in a tone that almost made her forget what she'd asked. The second time was the last. Remembering it still made Anne-Marie's guts clench. Even though it had been, how long? God, that was 6 years ago, and I still want to cry when I think of it. She and Evangeline had been playing cards in Anne-Marie's cell. It was only about a week after she had had her outburst. She couldn't bring herself to admit that it really was a tantrum. And the others on the cell block seemed about a step short of forming a lynch mob. Some of the offhand comments a few of them made while she was in earshot made her lie awake at night, thanking God she was safely tucked into her locked cage and wondering how she was going to spend the next 10 years constantly watching her back. Of course, the anger had faded with time. Only one inmate, that moron Rosa, still wouldn't let it go. Why? Anne-Marie didn't know. Maybe she really did have something going with Tibber. How Anne-Marie posed a threat to that, she couldn't figure out. But one look into Rosa's eyes confirmed that something had snapped up there or was very close to it. Anne-Marie steered clear of her as much as she could. But Evangeline hadn't been angry back then. On the contrary, she seemed almost desperate to form some kind of relationship. Rather than question it, Anne-Marie took advantage of the situation. The card games lasted only a few hands at first, but by the end of the week, they went on for hours. The first few times were more like lectures than social events. Evangeline told Anne-Marie who to approach for what, who to stay away from at all costs, and the rules and codes that pass for inmate etiquette. Anne-Marie's question was harmless, really, more cliche than real dialogue. So, what are you in for? Evangeline stopped in mid-draw and pinned Anne-Marie with a look that made her throat go dry. Anger and pain seemed to be fighting for control of her face. Anne-Marie didn't know what to say. I'm sorry. Without a word, Evangeline placed the cards neatly on the bunk and walked out of the cell. Anne-Marie heard the door next to hers slam. It wouldn't have been too bad if that had been the end of it, but Evangeline hadn't joined the dinner line. And later that night, some weird twist of acoustics carried faint sobs into Anne-Marie's cell. She'd never questioned Evangeline again, so she was surprised at her friend's query. I don't know, she replied. I guess we were happy. Christmas was always better than Thanksgiving. No football. Presents? I think I missed the Thanksgivings more, though. Anne-Marie looked down at her institutional holiday feast. The gravy had puddled into a crater in the mashed potatoes and was starting to congeal. She mixed it up and tried not to think about it as it went into her mouth. The meals, anyhow, she said after she swallowed. This dinner ain't that bad, Evangeline said. Today's not supposed to be about food anyway. It's about realizing what we have and being thankful for it. Anne-Marie almost choked on her peas. Thankful? What did she have to be thankful for except a damp cell and 7 years of wondering? 7 years of the mystery that was eating her up inside, lurking, forever living like sandpaper just under her skin, rubbing her raw from the inside out. And here, 1982 was sliding into 1983. The sameness of prison life turning it all into one mindless grind. And still, no magic revelation, no justice, not even a chance for justice. Anne-Marie noticed the white-knuckled grip she had on her fork and realized she was scowling into her tray. I will not let this get the best of me. She took a deep breath. I am in control. She gently placed her fork down. I am not an animal. She grabbed her napkin and began folding mindlessly, producing a paper swan. So, was your family happy during the holidays? To hell with etiquette. Evangeline had brought up the whole thing, so it was fair game now, and she needed the distraction. Oh, yes, Evangeline replied eagerly. We never really had much. Jim Crow wouldn't let us. But Daddy would always find a way to get all 7 of us something on Christmas morning. Then we'd go to services. Daddy'd say, I've rendered unto you what is yours. Now it is time to render unto the Lord what is his. Sounds like we celebrated differently, Emery said. We never went near church on Christmas, or any other time of the year for that matter. Christmas was about the tree and the eggnog and those stupid TV specials. My Thomas loved the tree. Evangeline made the sign of the cross absently as she spoke. And going to town to look at the shop windows, we couldn't afford a television, not back then. There was nothing on for us anyway. Going to church was the way for our community to share the spirit. Emery couldn't imagine a Christmas about brotherhood. It worked in theory and on all those TV specials, but everybody knew the reason for Christmas was presents. End of story. As she got older, the presents got better, mainly because she brought her own gifts, mainly because she bought her own gifts and didn't always fit under the tree. Screw that sentimental crap. But she offered a smile to Evangeline and pretended she understood. Why did people have this obsession with believing in something they couldn't see? There was only you. To put faith in anything else was foolish. It was the only weakness Anne-Marie had ever found in Evangeline. Well, Anne-Marie raised her cup. I am thankful that we're friends. I know I would have a much harder time in this place without you. Not that it makes being cheated out of my life any easier, she added as a mental afterthought. She drank the last of her coffee. The dregs were bitter, which seemed fitting, then crumbled her swan into what was left on her tray. Happy Thanksgiving was over. Merry Christmas was next, followed by Happy Friggin' New Year. Only 3 more to go after this one. The bell rang soon after, and Anne-Marie and Evangeline picked up their trays and joined the line back to the block. Fresh thoughts of the old mystery had Anne-Marie so wrapped in thought that she didn't notice a chair sticking out at the end of the table. Before she realized what was happening, she had tripped over it and was falling, instinctively grabbing at the woman in front of her. When she finally regained her balance, she looked at the shirt she was clutching, then at the owner. Oh, shit. Get off me, bitch! Rosa twisted her torso, her eyes taking on a slightly deranged cast as she struggled to get free from Anne-Marie. This threw Anne-Marie off balance again, causing her to hold tighter. Wait! Was all Anne-Marie could get out before Rosa swung the edge of her metal tray into Anne-Marie's temple. Falling down wasn't nearly as scary after that. She could sense a brightness behind her eyelids before she was able to open them. The air held a slight chill, raising goosebumps. Her mouth felt like it was coated with dust, and her head throbbed. Where am I? Anne-Marie sat up with a start, hugging herself and attempting to rub some warmth into her arms. Flecks danced in her vision, but soon cleared to reveal nothing. That she was in a room of some sort was evident only because there was a floor at her feet. Aside from that, it was unlike any room she had ever seen. The walls seemed composed of a dull blue nothingness, no corners, no evident ceiling. It may have been some god's palace in the sky, yet there was nothing regal about it. Aside from the cot she sat on, the only other bit of furniture she could see was a console, was the only word that came to mind to describe the narrow white table set into the slightly raised dais off to one side. She spun around. The only other thing she could see was a silver gray door at the top of a shallow ramp on the wall opposite the console. It helped to dispel the illusion that she was in midair, but the place was still eerie. Her heart was beating faster, keeping time with her breath. She was still cold, and she felt naked. A look down showed that she was in a skin-tight suit that left only her feet and hands bare. Where am I? What's happening? She approached the door, the only way out. Out to where? A dull whine filled the room, and the door began to rise. She ran back toward the bunk, her panic increasing. She was crouching on the bed, arms in a defensive pose, by the time the door was completely open. A woman in a lab coat walked down the ramp, trying to read a clipboard and smile reassuringly at Anne-Marie at the same time. Who are you? Where am I? Breath here. Edit that out, Albie. Who are you? Where am I? The woman continued approaching. She appeared bird-like to Anne-Marie, not overly tall, but slender enough to give that impression. I'm sorry if your head aches a bit, but we had to sedate you earlier. Her manner was professional, friendly, but detached. Large eyes stared at Anne-Marie from her dark face. Earlier. The last thing Anne-Marie could remember was seeing 2 people dressed like this one, and someone screaming. What's going on here? That may be a bit difficult to explain, the woman said, still approaching. But you're safe. No one here will hurt you. Damn right, Amory sprung from the bunk, launching herself at the woman. To do what? She had a vague sense that she should be able to flip this woman or kick her or something, but she couldn't remember how. She stopped short, just in front of the woman. The woman took her by the shoulders and gently pushed her back on the bunk. I promise, no one will hurt you. She tried to lay Anne-Marie down once again, hands gentle but firm on her shoulders. I'm Dr. Beeks. I'm here to... I don't care what you're here for. Anne-Marie began to struggle harder. Where am I? Please, calm down, Beeks said, matching Anne-Marie's increasing strength. She lifted her head. Ziggy, get me some help. Anne-Marie continued to fight as the other woman's eyes filled her vision. She squeezed her eyes shut and pushed, and reality shifted. The floor was hard and cold against her back. Anne-Marie opened her eyes and Evangeline stared back at her, concern filling her features. She's crazy! That bitch is crazy! Anne-Marie looked past Evangeline and saw Rosa, held by Hernandez, staring down at her with fevered eyes. Look at her rolling around down there, Rosa continued. I had to hit her. She attacked me. She tripped, Evangeline said levelly. It was an accident. But Evangeline, Rosa says, Mr. Hernandez. Evangeline raised her voice slightly. Have you ever known me to lie? No, the guard admitted. Then why are you calling me a liar? She turned back to Anne-Marie and rubbed the side of her head. Stars exploded behind Anne-Marie's eyes, and blackness coiled on the edges of her vision. The matter was all very simple. This woman tripped, and that woman attacked her for it. I'm sure others will agree. Some of the other inmates nodded. Most just studied the floor. Hernandez looked from Rosa to Anne-Marie and back, then shook her head. Accidents happen, I suppose, he said, finally. Fall in and get back to the block. He released Rosa and swept his gaze across the inmates clustered around the room. Now, ladies. The others finally began to move. Evangeline helped Anne-Marie up and both joined the line. That Rosa, Evangeline chuckled. The way she scowls. She was like she was expecting a chicken dinner and discovered there was nothing left but jowls and beaks. Well, as my daddy used to say, chicken one day, feathers the next. My dad always says that. Beaks? The word swam through Anne-Marie's head as she rubbed absently at the potatoes and gravy smeared across the front of her clothes. But the pain clouded everything. She struggled to remember, but the only image breaking through the haze was an open blue sky. She knew it meant more, but comprehension danced just beyond her reach. She was back on the block before she realized it, and in a worse mood than before. When Evangeline asked to join her in her cell, she grumbled assent. That cut needs tending to, Evangeline said, making her way to the sink. Cool cloth will have to do. Anne-Marie sat on her bunk and retrieved the cards from the bed table. She was shuffling absently when Evangeline applied the damp cloth, dabbing at the bloody lump. This will set things right in no time. Nothing can set things right. Anne-Marie threw the cards down and stood up, pushing Evangeline's hand away. Don't you understand that? Calm now, it's only a small bump. I don't mean this, damn it. Anne-Marie gestured at the lump and began to pace. Pardon me. I don't mean this, damn it. Anne-Marie gestured at the lump and began to pace. I mean this. She waved her arm in an all-inclusive gesture. This whole, this life. I don't know how it happened, and every time I think I might be close to figuring it out, I can't remember. Evangeline looked at her quizzically. I don't see how. Don't try. You wouldn't understand. Anne-Marie sat next to her friend and took deep breaths. The injustice of it all. I just don't belong here. Evangeline stood suddenly, facing Anne-Marie with a look that withered her. She thought she had seen Evangeline mad before, but compared to this, the woman had only been mildly annoyed. You have the nerve to talk of injustice? Evangeline bit off each word as if she were struggling to contain a whirlwind within her. From the first day I have listened to you whine and prattle about how you don't know how you wound up here, the injustice of it all. Well, you don't know what injustice is. You can't even begin to comprehend it. But nothing. It all seems very simple to me. You robbed people. You got caught. You went to jail. It's black and white. Black and white. She laughed bitterly, a sound of rage and pain. It disturbed Anne-Marie the most of anything so far. It's black and white that put me in here, too, she continued. Black and white that killed my Thomas. The laugh turned into a sob. Evangeline sat down next to Anne-Marie. They came in the night, the cowards. About 20 of them, all hollering and laughing and burning a cross. A cross! Our house was next. I heard my baby screaming, but I couldn't get to him in time, barely got out myself. Evangeline stood once again, as if moving towards something she saw in the distance. I showed him, though. The smile was back. They had the gall to march in the Independence Day parade, said it was their right as free Americans to express their views, First Amendment. So I figured it applied to me too. I got 3 of the bastards before they tackled me and took the rifle away. Anne-Marie sat in stunned silence. Didn't give me death, though, Evangeline continued. Even changed the venue of the hearing. Hid too close to home, too close to their dirty little secrets. Judge said, considering the mitigating circumstances, justice would be served with a life sentence. Evangeline laughed again. Justice would be served. She shook her head and was silent. Anne-Marie stood and put her arms around her friend's shoulders. You poor thing. Evangeline shrugged her off and put a few steps between them. Oh no. I'm no victim. I will not sully Thomas's memory by calling myself such. She turned and looked Anne-Marie in the eyes. I did what I could do. The only thing I saw to do. That doesn't mean it was right. Nothing can make it that. And even knowing it, I'd do it again. So everyone got what they deserved. Eventually, everyone does. Anne-Marie sensed that the subject had turned back to her. It was her turn to start pacing. But how do you cope when it's always right there, shadowing everything you do? You find things to fill the time, to fill the hole. Anne-Marie swept the origami figures off the table and kicked them across the floor. But folding paper just isn't cutting it anymore, she cried. It's not enough. I know you're more intelligent than that, Evangeline shot back. I saw it from the first. Why do you think I bothered talking with you? I got along in here for years just fine without you. But I saw something in you. Call it a spark or whatever. Someone who could maybe hold a decent conversation, even if we wound up hating each other. I couldn't sit back and watch this place drain the life out of another person, create another victim. She sighed. Maybe I'm not as good at judging characters as I thought, though. From what's coming out of that mouth of yours, you were a victim long before you got here. Evangeline knelt and picked up the folded figures at her feet. It was never about paper or folding. It was about showing yourself that you're better than your circumstances, that you control your inner outlook. And to hell with outside events. You knew that in the beginning, but you lost it somewhere along the way. You let the years and the supposed injustice leach the meaning out of it. Anne-Marie leaned on the sink, frustration rising. I want to begin again. I want to keep fighting. Then do it, Evangeline said. You can't wait for me to hold your hand and lead you through it. You have to find your own way. How? I don't know. I wish you'd let the Lord in. It would help so much. Evangeline raised her hands and surrendered to Anne-Marie's stony glare. But that, most of all, is something you need to figure out for yourself. Just find something that you can focus on, something that you can devote yourself to. What it is doesn't really matter as long as it helps you get in touch with who you are and who you want to be. Anne-Marie nodded. Evangeline made it all sound so simple. I have to try, she said. But even as she uttered those words, she knew they contained more than a hint of lip service. Try as she might, she doubted she would ever be able to put the mystery completely to rest.
Wow.
End of chapter 5.
Great writing,
nice.
Chris.
Okay.
I'd always
Great
assumed you
great
were a good
reading.
writer, but it's really nice to know. Like, you're really good.
Well, thanks.
I
There
bet-
is one giant glaring mistake in that chapter, and it's something that I actually meant to write into it, which would have been another connection. But I completely forgot as I was writing it. It was always in my mind to do it, but as you're working, you just sometimes forget. And Ginger pointed it out to me after the galley proofs were all done. And we're reading through it. And she said, it occurs to me, Chris, that no one is really going to notice this, but Anne-Marie is like a smuggler. She's in a federal prison. Her and Evangeline wouldn't be in the same kind of prison. Evangeline just murdered somebody. And I said, Jesus Christ, Ginger, you're right. And in my original concept of Evangeline's crime, one of the KKK guys that she shot was an undercover agent, much like Sam was in what was it, Justice, I think. So she wounded or maybe even killed a federal officer, and that's why she's in a federal prison. So that's kind of behind the scenes as to how I had them together, even though they had different types of crimes. And I just completely forgot to write it in. So.
Well, you don't remember what the one thing you went to the store for until you get back home.
Yeah, and the thing is, it also makes her, even more strident about not having been a victim, because what she did was wrong, and she did kill quote an innocent person in her quest for revenge as well. So I mean, it's just this cycle, and you can't not own it. You have to own it, is her thing. So anyway.
Very good. Good. That's a great point to leave off too until next week, because I mean, if you haven't read it, it's almost like a serial cliffhanger kind of thing.
Well, that's how books go, you know?
Yeah, you got to read the next chapter of the good book.
All right, so we are now on page 61, chapter 6. That's where we'll begin next time.
Yep. And this has been fun. Let's remind everyone why we're here. We're donating to Matt Dale's family's GoFundMe. Anything you can give, follow the QR code, follow the link. There'll be links below on the description after this goes not live. And if you weren't able to donate live, that's fine. This will be playing in perpetuity, and you can donate anytime you'd like. As far as I know, that link is going to be good for the near future. So, but get those in November. Let's make November the month of Matt. All right, let's do some plugs. Stacy, what do you got going on?
I don't know. What do I got going on? So at Corman Productions, we just finished a ridiculous month of October. We launched a new episode basically every day of the month.
Wow.
So those are all out there. We're continuing with we're doing from season 3, Sullivan's Crossing season 2. We just finished Teacup, the new series on Peacock. And then we have a couple Thanksgiving movies coming up this month that are already pre-recorded, and I don't know what
I'm
else.
excited about
More
those.
stuff.
I got a little behind the scenes list of what's coming out, so I'm excited about those. All right, we got some comments. Ruffalo Taco says, "Man, that was great." All
I'm glad
right.
you enjoyed it.
And thank you from John Irons to Ruffalo Taco, and thank you from all of us. All right, Captain Game Show, what do you got going on? Where can we find you? Where can we look you up? Where can we follow you? Where can we stalk you? Send me your home address.
So when he shouted out Captain Game Show just now, clearly he's losing his mind. I don't know, just random word salad. No. Captain Game Show, Lifeboat. No, my name is John Irons, and I'm the host and creator of Captain Game Show. It is a trivia wordplay podcast. I'm actually I'm editing. I haven't put an episode out in a while, in like a couple of months, but I am editing one now that will hopefully be out in the next couple of days. Chris is on that one, actually. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Shared universe.
I've yet to be invited, but I'm over it.
No, you've been invited. I just haven't had you on.
Sent the message. You wrote the letter, but you didn't put the stamp on it. Okay,
He left the envelope unsealed by mistake, and the letter fell out.
I understand I make you uncomfortable with all my
verbally
compliments.
invited. I am a man of my word. I will have actually Albie, Stacy, and Brian at like when we did the nonstop 24-hour marathon or whatever it was, the overnight.
I think it was like 14 hours. What was it, Stacy?
It felt like 24.
I think it was about 14.
14 hours straight, yeah.
I went to a fugue state about halfway through, so who knows?
Well, see, Albie doesn't even remember you talking about this, so he wasn't present anymore.
Nope, I was pretty loopy by the end. I think both John and Brian woke up in the morning and we were still going.
Yes, I intended to get an hour sleep, ended up with 2 hours sleep. I'm so sorry.
It was
my body shut down. My bad.
It was worth it. All right, we got a message.
But yes, I will have Albie. I will have you, Brian, and Stacy on an episode soon.
Make sure it's something
it may or may not be Quantum Leap related. So
Quantum Leap, Broadway, Star Trek. I can do those kind of things. Science,
it could be literally anything. Ask Chris. He's
unraveling mystery. All right, we got a message from Wilblick.
It's Willard.
As someone who hasn't had the pleasure of reading the book, I've got all night. Let's keep going. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we're doing this in 4 parts so we can reach more people. And hopefully we build an audience as we go, as people see that we are doing these live streams. And if you want more Albie and Chris tonight live, we are doing our episode of Trekaholic. No, not Trekaholic. Trexploration. I got so many podcasts. Christopher,
Wow.
tell us a little bit about Trexploration. and how people can
Trexploration
follow
is
us.
it's a groundbreaking concept. It's the only show on the internet where two white middle-aged guys are talking about Star Trek. So you'll be floored by the observations that we have there. It's youtube.com/@Trexploration. They can also go on to our Patreon site, our main hub of discussion, or we try to make it that anyway. It's patreon.com/Trexploration. And you don't have to be a financial supporter to join the community over there. Anybody can join the community over there, whether they want to support us or not. All the supporting is really, really nice. For those who want to continue reading along at home, if you want to read ahead, next time we're going to be doing chapter 6, which is page 61 in the book, to chapter 12, which starts 123. So we'll be doing another 63 pages next time, chapters 6 through 11, or 6 through 12, I guess. When you say 6 through that, do you mean you end at 12 and you read 12, or that you read up to chapter 12? We'll be reading chapter 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 next time.
There you go. There you go. So that'll be good. We got more messages. We got Ruffalo Taco says, will Caitlin or someone from QL2 be on sometime the month to read the chapter? I have no idea yet. We haven't reached out.
We haven't reached out. They're busy now. They're doing something with Mark Bernardin, I think, or with
Mark Bernardin is directing it, and the Quantum Leap podcast is a backer of it.
And I believe that it was one of the writers. Wasn't it JD Robb? No, not JD.
It's the writing pair.
Oh, they both did. Okay.
Yeah, they both did. And
Derek Hughes.
Derek Hughes and
JD.
Yep. And I bumped into Derek in Vegas, I think. Trying to think. Oh, and who else is in it? Caitlin, Ray, Ernie.
Ernie's in it. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's going to be great. So I can't wait to see that. And of course, love Mark. And we got another one from Ruffalo Taco says, Trexploration, here I come. So he'll be hanging out with us tonight. That's great. That's great. And we got another message from Willard, I think. It's also the only Trek show that has me during the live shows. Yes, that's true. He's always there and he's commenting along with us, so that's great to always have him with us.
There you go. So he's breaking ground like it's another dude commenting on Star Trek on the internet. So
yeah, I mean, it's
see the path we're carving for everybody out.
What?
Let me. Would you recommend? So we're at the stopping point before chapter 6. Would you recommend to people that they do read ahead, or that they wait and catch up at like the next episode on a series?
Yeah, you know what? Quite frankly, since the way we're doing this, I wouldn't encourage people to read ahead, because if you want to have it unfold before you, I'm like talking almost. I've been obsessed with the Power Broker the last couple of years, and they're doing a read along on 99% Invisible, where they tell you what they're going to read and then they discuss it. It's different from what we're doing here. We're actually just reading it in real time. So I would say, however spoiler adverse you are, if you think the book is great and you just can't help but read ahead, well, or you can just wait, it's fine.
I am gonna, because like I said, I hadn't read this before, and I'm very much enjoying it, but I am going to actually make myself wait so that I don't read ahead, so I get to discover it in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this.
I planned to read this whole book this past week, so I was in the right mind space for this, and very coincidentally, I only got as far as exactly where we stopped.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I hope that my dramatic reading at least brought something new to it. I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
I missed half of the reading with all my trouble, so I'm glad I knew what was going on.
Okay, there you go. There you go. So
Ruffalo Taco is going to be at Trexploration. He says, see you there. And he also says, I like the way you're doing it. It's like a radio saga.
A radio saga.
Yeah.
What's up? What's up, Stacy?
Open your mail before we leave.
Oh, you got mail.
Yeah, I went to the post office box.
You got mail. Okay.
There was a thing in there saying that there was a package too big for the post office box.
Ooh.
So I bring it up to the counter like a
box?
kid at Christmas, and I'm just like, ooh, I'm going to get this giant box of something. Someone's going to, the chocolate cake or something. And it was this. But I think it's because it said do not bend. and maybe they would have had to have angled it a little bit more than they wanted to. So they were being very safe.
Before you open that, Chris, plugs Brian. Tell people where everyone can find the famous Brian Greene besides Waterfall Park in New Hampshire.
Wrong again. You can find me at Al's Place, quantumleap-alsplace.com. We have a YouTube channel. We have forums. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, all over the place. And on this podcast right now.
Awesome.
By the way, this live cast is already on Al's Place on the Foreknowledge page at quantumleap-alsplace.com/novels.
You have been
And all
killing
the
it
rest
on
of them
YouTube,
YouTube.
Brian.
What's that?
You've been killing it on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I found a bunch of interesting things. Quantum Leap on other shows has been a big one lately.
And you know what, Brian? We should also just point out, and I want to thank you for this. For those of you who maybe want to read along and don't have the book and don't know where to find it, I believe there is a link to a digital copy of Foreknowledge on that Foreknowledge page on the Al's Place website. I don't know who created it, but thank you for whoever created it. It's probably... I could probably name a name, but I don't want to incriminate anybody.
It's crazy because Foreknowledge is one of the most expensive Quantum Leap novels on the secondary market. So,
coincidentally,
that is how I am reading it. And once you download the PDF, whatever, at least mine is, I have Acrobat, and it will convert it. Like, it'll basically go through the pages and read it and translate it into like a searchable PDF.
nice.
It's not just the image of pages; it becomes actual searchable text.
Oh, very cool. We got more comments.
Coincidentally, the person that actually did the scans, and they did them many years ago. Her name is Anne Marie Marvin, and Anne Marie, and but actually, Matt Dale got hold of these and was using them for his books, and Adrian sent them to me also. So it's come through Matt and Adrian from Anne Marie years and years ago. So thanks to all of them for that. All of the novels, by the way, are on the site.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I think I got mine from Matt. I think that's okay to say. Let's see. Ruffalo Taco says, "Is Brian Greene in New Mexico?"
not a chance.
So cool. And also he says, "I'm going to read only the locker room section." I might have to reread that tonight myself.
We're going to reread it. We're going to do a more of a role playing on the OnlyFans for Trek Exploration. Do we have an OnlyFans for QLP?
It's in development, but I need help. Technical issues. Christopher D.
Make sure you know what he means by OnlyFans, because it's a whole different thing than what you might think.
Basically it's the same show, except you can see Chris's feet on the live cam while we're doing
All right, so we have an unboxing. This is from Stacy. Okay, I needed a scissor to rip it open. Let's see. Ooh. And I cleared this with her first. I said, there's nothing here that's going to scandalize anybody, is there? She assured me not, but we might have different definitions of scandal. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
All right. Okay, so it doesn't look bent, so thank you, Stacy.
Yay!
All right. Chris, that's me.
That's you.
Oh, oh, you got. Oh, that's fantastic. This is us at Man of La Mancha. It's the whole gang. So there we can see that. Yeah, oh, look at that, Brian. And there's Scott. And she got Scott to sign it. When did you do this? You and there's me. There's me off to the side. I look like Toots Tony in these pictures, but I don't care. Wow. Anyway, that is fantastic.
You got a little bit cut off, but
that's fine. I'm all good with that.
We got Adam, we got Brian, we got Stacy, we got Serenity, we got Dave, we got Scott, everybody. Chris. Oh, Albie too.
So I had copies of that picture printed, and we brought them with us when we saw Scott in DC.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And he
Thank
was
you so
kind.
much.
And I was like, here's 5 copies of this picture. Can you sign all of them for me? And he didn't even think about it. He was amazing.
Oh, such a great guy.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Scott. If you're watching, I know you are. I know you're stalking us, Scott. So this will go with the other autograph.
Well, we're definitely stalking him.
Yeah. So it's a turnabout is fair play. Yes.
It's
a cute little Halloween card. And There's the inside. And it says, Chris, I had Scott sign a copy of this photo for you while we were in D.C. We wish you could have made it Stacy's. Oh, so you brought those to D.C. with you. Wow.
I just said that.
Yeah, I know. I was, in my mind, you had done it at some point. I was a little overwhelmed. I
Maybe when
apologize.
Scott
I
stopped
don't
by-
see Scott every week. So yeah, DC was the best opportunity for that.
So thank you very much. Haunting those ghosts will go. It's a Halloween, you know. They'll let out a groan and maybe a boo and make Halloween frightfully fun just for you. Happy Halloween. Oh, thank you very much, Stacy.
Right.
That was so thoughtful of you. This is fantastic. I love it. Now I have.
And if
like, I
anybody
went-
wants to see the video of Scott signing them, it's in one of the Corman Productions latest videos. So go check that out.
Nice.
All of our footage from DC.
All right.
Wow. Dun, dun,
That's
dun, dun. Get leaping. I'm going to put this back here with our growing collection of feedback and cards. We have from Listen Linda. Now we have from Stacy. And you guys can't see it because it's not on camera, but
I have mine. I got mine earlier, Stacy. Thank you so much. And I have mine on my refrigerator until I get a nice frame for it. So
I
just
got
something-
mine in person, so nana boo
well,
I'm
we're sorry
glad
we
we
weren't
made that
able to
trip.
make the DC trip,
Yeah.
but
I'm glad I didn't plan for it.
Well, I wanted to give you guys something from the trip, anyways.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. That's very
All
thoughtful.
right.
And I
you-
thought that was just cool and meta to have him sign our photo
Yeah. No, fantastic.
from the last time we met him.
and he's probably like, "Oh, you guys again, stalking me."
He definitely like recognized the group. I'm pretty sure.
Was he dressed as Lincoln
No,
when he signed it?
He
Oh,
had green.
Abraham Taco.
right.
So next time you get him to sign the prints of the photos of him signing that photo.
Yes.
We didn't get as nice of a photo this time.
Oh, we'll do a video screen grab or something. That'd be cool. We
Roll.
still have one more thing to do before we end this live stream. We have a giveaway, and everyone that was commenting is eligible, and people who donated are eligible. No purchase necessary, only in the continental United States, and void where prohibited by law. Give away gifts, and not in Pueblo, Colorado. All right.
Right.
So
That's where I
We're
live.
going- I'm going through the websites. If you guys feel free to help me where all the donations can come in.
What, are we
I-
doing this now? Or are we doing it at the end of the reading?
I think, do we do it now or do we do it at the end of the reading?
I thought we were going to do it at the end of the reading
just
to give
one
more
thing.
people a chance to enter. I don't have like a book of reading to give away. You know?
I was thinking of other things we could give away.
All right. I mean, however you want to do it, brother. I just figured, keep
Let's see.
people coming, keep people, give them some incentive.
I
All
think
right,
you
so
should
at
save
the
that
end
for
of
the end of
November.
the month.
And this way, people that didn't catch it live have a chance to donate
Exactly.
too, right?
That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
That's
yeah.
smart thinking.
So,
Okay.
so you got to make a list so you don't forget anybody.
Yes, we definitely have people in the running. So
Yeah.
watch us
I'm-
live, comment, and
I
donate.
made a lot of comments, but I'm going to just officially recuse myself.
Yeah,
eligible.
anybody in the
Yeah.
QLP.
Me as
Yeah.
well. Take
Group
me right
has
out of there.
to,
Even though I did send a super chat trying to encourage our chat to like jump on the bandwagon, and they didn't get the hint.
I did see that. So that's amazing.
I will.
So
I
you
will
have
also
the
say,
month of November until I think our last reading is going to be a few days before Thanksgiving, because we don't want to take up people's Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, we have to make it, just so you know, I have an opera
Saturday.
one Saturday.
Which Saturday do you?
What's the third Saturday? Sorry, I have an opera.
Yeah.
So
You have a beautiful voice. It would be a shame if you didn't share it with the world, Chris.
So we might have to move one of these to a Sunday is all I'm saying.
Okay,
And
I'm
I
up
have a
for
birthday
that
party,
because Serenity wanted to participate in one of them anyway,
Okay, cool.
and I only have
So-
her every other.
And
Saturday.
we read all the dirty parts tonight, so that's good.
All right, Ruffalo Taco is going to comment daily.
Roll for Tarako.
Roll for Tarako. I don't get the reference, so maybe that's why I'm messing it up.
I just want to go back to a comment that I made at 9:10, like almost an hour ago.
Okay.
I don't know if it was pointed out, but it was hilarious. We've been introduced to the character of Beringer, and he's like talking about how the club is ruining the town. I said they've got capital T and that rhymes with P, and that stands for
It
pool.
stands for pool. Music Man.
Music Man.
Love that
Even-
reference.
Even I got that reference.
That's funny. I think Chris made that reference a couple days ago in one of our lengthy conversations. 2 more questions, Chris, for the author, since I have you here. Normally don't do this.
You
I'm
have me
working
for
on it.
3. Oh wait, that's
3
the wrong
questions.
show. Wrong show.
That's the next show. We do
Right,
Star
right,
Trek
right.
trivia. So if you're good at Star Trek trivia, check out Trek Exploration.
Right, and
More
also witness me if you guys really like this live stuff and you want to follow us to that show. I usually do a synopsis with a rundown. I ain't gonna bother with that. We're just gonna go right on, and I'm gonna just wing my synopsis for this episode of Lower Decks.
I was gonna say,
Anyway.
I love your synopsis. Yeah, like I'm not doing that. Okay.
He does great synopses, right?
Anyway,
All right. The 2 questions. Maybe I got you for 3 questions. I'll think. Of
okay.
one more.
What are the questions, sir?
Tawny? Where did that name come from? Was it Tawny?
It just seemed like a stripper name.
Okay.
And
What did-
that's actually, spoiler alert, it's not her real name.
the book is ruined for me. Roll is a rolling dice. That part I know. And I just like the bird Turaco. It's a part of my brand. Okay. Turaco.
Okay.
It's a bird.
Okay. Roll for Torojo.
And the other one is, what does marron mean in Federation Standard?
Maron. That's how it really is. It's maron, not mudon. But in my whole life, I've heard it as maron.
What
But
does
that's
it
like
mean in-
maron. I can't tell you because my phone died about 2/3 of the way through the thing.
I had to
so
shut mine off because my diabetes monitor was blinking. Every
right. It's
5 minutes.
maron. Marron, I believe. And
I don't know Italian.
Okay, but I mean, not to change the subject, but if your diabetes monitor is blinking, maybe don't turn it off. Like,
Hey,
is
he
that a
doesn't
thing
want to
you
ruin the
should pay
show.
attention to?
Right. I don't know how to turn the alarm off. It would go beep, beep, beep. And then it stopped my hard camera, which is my iPhone, from recording. So I was like, After the 3rd time, I was like, okay, you're going silent for now. I'll check it between shows.
Or we'll just call the ambulance when you
Yeah,
drop.
One or
One or the
no,
other.
I'm doing all right. I'm in the green. So
It's a live show. Somebody will show up. They'll see
yeah,
what's
somebody will show up. They'll see me. If you don't see me, call somebody. All right, so we'll be back every week this month. The month of Matt, November is the month of Matt, and besides the live streams where we're reading Foreknowledge, there might be another couple live streams. People are planning things, thinking about things. I'm up for all ideas. Anything we can do to help support Matt and Matt's family, that'd be great. And also, we're going to have previously unreleased Matt Dale content. There is stuff. So be on the lookout for that. So like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when we do go live and when we do have new content coming out. Oh, there's the book. I got mine behind me by my blue French horn.
I got mine always within reach.
Yes. And John Irons is on
And
vacation.
now I have everybody's signature except John's because he didn't come see us.
Yeah, John.
No, he was at the
My
connector the
kids were
first time.
sick. I couldn't come.
Yeah, so
I
eventually gotta meet
I
John
did
Irons in
meet
person.
him. I did meet John at the connector and
Yes.
totally
We-
failed to think of asking for it then or for a picture or for
Honestly,
anything because we were a
me
little
signing-
starstruck. We were meeting Scott Bakula.
I was going to say,
Signing
Stacy,
anything
you were a little
officially-
Star Trek because you were meeting me. I know.
Okay, actually, if you want the honest truth, it's because Chris didn't even introduce us to John, and we didn't even know who the heck he was
There's
until
no
like
reason why
5
you
minutes
would.
later, and I was like, "Oh wait!" And then it was too late, and I was like, "Never
I
mind."
can't stress this enough. I am a distant orbiting satellite of the quantum leap universe. Like compared
I
to
knew who you
guys'
are in the
core of
show,
solar system.
but I didn't recognize you in that moment. That you were just standing off to the side holding a microphone.
Also, I'm kind of a jerk. So this is not a Stacy problem. This is not a John issue. This is a Chris is oblivious as always issue. So
It is also
I
a
did get
John
Chris
issue
to sign it
because
that day, though. I did.
At any given moment, I will try to blend into the to the background and not be noticed by anyone, which is why I'm a podcaster and not an actor.
all right,
Can't
gang.
do anything. All right, so it's time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for everyone who donated, and keep those donations coming in. Remember, there is that QR code on the screen. There will be a link down below shortly, and just Google Matt Dale GoFundMe and donate and give what you can. Thank you so much. So, for the Quantum Leap Podcast, I'm Albie.
I'm Chris.
I'm Brian.
I'm John.
I'm Stacy.
And thank you so much to Hayden that joined us. He's on assignment right now. And we'll see you next time. Happy month of Matt. All right. I'm going to hit stop.